the sun till you're perfectly done. But you'll be doing that all without me. Well, me and my boat, anything that floats, just about right to your side on the notes I play in my guitar.
Am I an expert at fire communications, fire behavior, any kind of communications? Ham, MERS? Not at all. 3 years ago, I knew nothing. I struggled trying to figure out what to do living here on North Rodeo Gulch. Being a college advisor by trade, I'm not into science. I know nothing about EMS, medical, fire, or any of that. I started Merit Academy. I was Mother of the Year in 2019. I'm from Malibu. I have no qualifications to run a show like this today. So I wanted to address that because you're probably wondering who I am. How do I put these things together and bring all these people together? And the reason I'm doing this is I'm like you. We all love living here. We're on North Rodeo Gulch, one of the most beautiful places in the whole country to live. And we're clueless when it comes to fires, and they're getting more and more dangerous, and you all know the stats, and it's scary and it's awful. And what I've found is that we have an incredible community of support. And I want to thank Central Fire. I think Tony's over there, and we've got Marco just showed up. Let's give a round of applause for all of Central Fire. They have come out to us in our road association meetings. They've come out to our homes to help us understand how fire behaves and how we can control it. And we're really, really grateful to have such an incredible team. They actually gave us an award, and they invited me to go down there on all of our behalf to get this from Central Fire for the work we do in protecting our own communities. Isn't this incredible? I sent out surveys for 2 years, and I received so many hate mail letters from all of you asking me, I already filled out this survey. Do I have to fill it out again? Why do I have to fill it out again? Why do you need to know my email address or my phone numbers? And it's none of your business. And I mean, pretty much like hate mail. And I wasn't sure where it was coming from because I didn't, like I said before, I didn't care. I would never, stalk you to find you. I didn't understand the hate mail I got. But over 2 years, I sent those surveys out, and we got 120 people on this road to fill it out. Thank you. With the 120 people who filled out the survey, I got the information I needed to apply to be North Rodeo Gulch Firewise recognized, and we are now recognized as a Firewise community. And this is something really, really amazing that we accomplished for such a large group. Everybody told me that we should minimize the size. I should just do my little neighborhood. It'll take too long. It'll be impossible to do. But I was determined to create a to create a Firewise community that started at Soquel Drive and continued to Mountain View, because if there's a fire on this road, we all need to be able to work together, and I wanted to control that. I knew I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't control the whole thing. So I appreciate all of you working really hard to talk to your neighbors, to get people to sign the survey, to fill out the survey. I work with Central Fire. I worked with their fire chief, both fire chiefs, to create the survey, to make sure it asks all the questions that we would need to have. And we found out that we as a community here on North Rodeo Gulch spent $225,000 just last year in fire protection. Is that amazing? It's $250,000 that we've spent. We've got the bucks, we've got the drive to do this, and I'm so glad to be able to lead this. I also noticed when I put together all the details that we've spent $16,000 in funds on services and products to protect our homes. $16,000 just on North Rodeo Gulch and all the side streets. So that's pretty cool. We are Firewise recognized, and we are going to continue to be so. Nicole, can you hold this for me? As part of the Firewise community, we have a 3-year plan. And on the 3-year plan, we have to accomplish these goals for year 1. And I've invited speakers and vendors today to help us reach this goal, so please take a look at this. It's serious stuff. We want to keep our recognition. We need to work as a team to get our 4-inch reflective lettering. Marco, here's the lettering. And this is the sign. And we have Stoke signs back there. They are going to make the signs. They're going to install the signs for you. If you take a look at my road, I live at 2392 right across the street here. We have a beautiful sign of 11 signs with a post. You could see it a mile away. It's sitting next to a cruddy old white sign that should be taken down. You can't even see what's on that sign until you are up on top of it, and even then you can't read the lettering. So please get this diamond reflective sign. This stuff is amazing. You can see it from so far away through smoke. The fire department is going to require this, and Marco will talk more about this later. How many people here are part of the North Rodeo Gulch Firewise community? Can you show me? Okay, great. And how many people are here from other Firewise communities? Yay! I love it. I love the fact that we've got all these other Firewise leaders here. We've got Fire Safe here. We've got a lot of different organizations here to join us, because one of the things I plan to do is work beyond our North Rodeo Gulch Firewise community and join with other Firewise communities, because fires don't know boundaries. You know, we need to be able to work with Branciforte. We need to be able to work with Happy Valley and Old San Jose Road. So I'm really glad that they're all here, because that's my next goal, is to be able to collaborate and do bigger events where we can work together to reach our goals. So I've invited 18 speakers here to give us tips today. We have 2 one-hour sessions. The vendors are going to be available at their tables, so they can show you what they've got, and I won't tell you, but it's really exciting. They've cutting-edge, innovative things. We've got insurance companies. We've got everything you need to live here on this road and be successful and be safe. I've talked them into coming. They're all here, and we're going to have a demo after. We're going to have lunch. We've also got Johnny Troutner and Peter Clark playing music during our lunch break and after the event, and we have we're going to be doing demos. So I wanted to show you, we're going to be doing a chainsaw demo, and we're going to be doing a fire extinguisher demo right after the event. And there we go. Thank you very much for joining us, and we're going to get started. Our first speaker is Supervisor Manu Koenig. Please welcome Manu.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I was so happy to come today. I think this is the most comprehensive fire symposium in the entire county, and I really want to thank you for putting it on, Susan. Thank you. So I'll just give you a couple updates about some things we're working on at the county. And of course, the first question everyone has is, when are you going to fix this road? Well, this year. I can honestly say at our next meeting, you look at our agenda for Tuesday's Board of Supervisors meeting, 2 out of the 3 washouts we're approving the engineer's estimate and putting them out to bid. Those are definitely getting fixed this year. Now, yes, those are for the lower 2. Now, I could use all your help if you know Mr. Sarliev down here. That 3rd washout, we need a maintenance easement on his property so we can get in there and fix the washout and maintain it in the future. If we can get that easement, we'll be able to move forward with repairing the final washout this year. If we fight about it, it'll take another year. So if you can encourage him to work with us, that'd be great. We're also going to be mowing the entire length of North Rodeo Gulch this year to reduce fire risk near the road. Is not lost on me that we just passed the 1-year anniversary at the end of March of that fire that broke out in lower North Rodeo Gulch here. And so I tracked down the property owner and have a no trespassing letter so we can enforce no camping on that property. And I've been working with the Parks Department on exploring potential for positive use there and a public access trail that would get more eyes and ears on the area to prevent illegal encampments. We'll be installing 3 new alert wildfire cameras throughout the county this year. That's cool. One up at Silver Mountain Winery, looking down and out across the Santa Cruz Mountains. One at Watsonville Airport, looking up at the mountains, and another one at Dream Inn, looking up at the mountains. So that'll bring our total in this county to 7. That'll expand our early warning system so that we'll be able to see smoke plumes as soon as they break out and be able to respond faster. Finally, we're revamping our wireless ordinance. Just waiting this morning. I couldn't even get a text out. So that is definitely concerning. We're revamping the county wireless ordinance to make it easier to install cell towers. It'll be more of a streamlined process. And they will all be required to have 72 hours of backup power in case of public safety power shutoffs, or fire or anything else. So we'll be able to get that service and keep it up. Finally, though, I mean, the most important thing, the most important fire effort in this county is the Firewise program. That's why I was happy to commit $50,000 to the program in last year's budget, and I will continue to support and make sure that that money is available to the program going forward. Because that $50,000, the Firewise program quickly leveraged into another $175,000 grant from Cal Fire, and now has over $1 million of outstanding grants that we're waiting to hear back on. But most importantly is the investment that all of you are making. Susan mentioned the amount that has been spent by residents here in North Rodeo Gulch. Countywide, over $2.7 million has been invested by residents in fire safety through the Firewise program. And that's as well as close to 50,000 hours of work time. In January of 2021, we had 9 Firewise communities countywide, and as of last month, we had 26 that had been registered, so a three times increase, and we have 15 more in progress. So keep up the good work. I wish I could stay for the chainsaw demo and the fire extinguisher demo later today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave Reed, from the director of our Office of Response, Recovery, and Resilience from the county, to talk about emergency communications.
Good morning, everybody. Again, as the supervisor said, my name is Dave Reed from the Office of Response, Recovery, and Resilience. A lot of times people are like, don't remember what the 3 R's are, don't understand exactly what I do or what our office does. So I'll just quickly talk a little bit about that. And then what I'm going to do is talk high-level communications at the county level and kind of above. And then what's great about the speaker lineup that Susan's put together is you're going to get more detailed as the speakers go on. So our office, OR3 for short, manages all of the emergency management functions at the county in the region, what we call our operational area. So we work very closely with our sheriff's department. You'll be hearing from Nick later this afternoon. Our fire partners at Central Fire and Cal Fire and other agencies. And then we are intimately involved in supporting the fire recovery. So I can say that the work that you're doing on your homes, this conversation here today, is so important in preparing you to be more resilient and hopefully to avoid some of the devastating outcomes of those community members from the CZU fire. So the work you're doing, hopefully we can avoid that outcome should there be another event by doing all of the defensible space work, the home ignition zone work that you guys are all doing. Then our third R is the resilience R, and that's talking about climate change. That's working with our Fire Safe Council, our Firewise communities like this one. We have a new staff member, as the supervisor mentioned. We were awarded a $175,000 grant to have somebody dedicated 100% of their time to thinking about fuel management, outreach and education, seeking grant funding to do fuel treatment work both at the residential scale and at the evacuation route scale and landscape scale. So really excited that we were able to leverage that support from the board and from the supervisor to have somebody dedicated to thinking about that and working on that every day, all day, to make our community more resilient. So on the communication side, on the emergency communication side, just briefly, and we'll keep things moving. Most of you should know this. Most of you are experienced in this space, but the first level of communication that we have at a county level with you is typically through our Code Red reverse 911 system. So you can sign up and register for Code Red. It's not necessarily, especially as people move from landlines to cable or voice over IP phone lines, make sure that all of your different communication devices are registered with Code Red. Download the Code Red app on your phone. So that will be one way in which we communicate with you. That's oftentimes the most imminent, immediate communication. If there's a notice to evacuate. A couple other pieces of communication and tools. Obviously, PG&E with the Public Safety Power Shutoff. They have a registration program so that you can become aware of pending or potential PSPS events, so that you're aware through their channel. And then the other tool that we use at the county, and this is in partnership with the Sheriff's Department and our fire partners, is Zone Haven. So Zone Haven, for those who don't know, is our evacuation management tool. You can go on to Zone Haven. There's a website that basically has carved up the entire county into evacuation zones, and it's good to, as we say, know your zone, know the code. It's like a central fire centric code, but know that and know the surrounding neighborhoods, so that if we're in an event where we're starting to coordinate and manage evacuations from a region because of concern of a fire farther out, being aware of that website, you can see we will sometimes put people into an evacuation warning, right? So that's just to have you have a heightened level of alert, and then we would issue an evacuation order. And we would do that through Zone Haven, and then we would do that through Code Red to notify you. But being aware of those tools, as well as the PG&E tool, will help you be informed. As our goal always is to be as far forward looking as we can. Right? We don't want to be put in an awkward position that happened to Paradise or some of our other communities in Sonoma County where we were caught off guard. So obviously PG&E is working much more robustly in our county to start to create a more granular power network where they can turn off parts of it during a PSPS, or they're installing new systems to turn off the power quicker so that we reduce the opportunity for utility-based fires to start. Those are oftentimes, right, the ones that catch us off guard. But we're always trying to look forward. I was on the phone multiple times this week with the National Weather Service, just making sure these thunderstorms and this rain event that came through this week wasn't going to be a problem. So we're always trying to look forward so that we can communicate as early as we need to give you as much time to prepare if there's something that we're concerned about. But having connection to those high-level tools will help you be prepared. And then as the speakers go on, granular communication will be super helpful, so you can communicate to neighbor to neighbor or street to street. So with that, I'll keep us maybe ahead of schedule, and I'll end early, but really appreciate everybody showing up today to listen to all the great speakers. It's a great opportunity. I think hopefully we can replicate this throughout the county in this information sharing forum and format that Susan and all of you have helped put together. So thank you for the time this morning.
Thank you, David. Here, this is for you. Next, we've got Keith Trinity and Eric Swenson talking about our North Rodeo Gulch Firewise communication system.
Hi, I'm Keith, and I'm into two-way radios, and I'm going to help anybody that wants to get one of these. It's a little walkie-talkie. You can get one or two. Louder. And they're on no license on mirrors, multi-use radio system. So you can chat amongst yourselves on these. If you hear sirens or something, you can turn it on and see if anybody else is on that knows what's going on. Or you can monitor all the time on it. And it also, you can unlock it and scan, and we'll see if we get any activity. I have the fire, and I have all kinds of stuff in here, scanning, sometimes even PG&E. So it's really tough to talk up and down, so we've done some practices. We do it every month. We've had to relay up to the far gullies and whatever, but we're practicing on that and getting more and more people set up with radios, and so you can get on there and chat about something you see, if you see smoke, or you just want to know if anybody's heard anything or whatever. Anything else? Oh, we have the radios here. Some, but you can order them. We'll get them all programmed. They'll all be ready to go. They're locked, so you turn it on and talk. Go ahead. She said she lost their phones at Bonnie Doon, and the cell coverage down here is pretty crappy. And also, I'm a ham, and there's a bunch of hams here, and we talk to the next speakers, and we can talk out of the area. So if there's a bigger event going on, or if we want to report what's going on here, we can chat out of the area and stay in touch.
Hi, I'm Eric Swenson. I live on Hidden Valley Road, and I've been helping with Susan and Keith are mapping out all the locations where we can reach and where we can't reach. Some of you have probably seen me standing suspiciously outside your houses talking on a radio and come out and ask me, what the heck are you doing there? I think this is a really important facility for us all. I really do encourage you to get your own MERS radio. If you're really interested in engaging with the larger community, also getting a ham radio license would help. I'm a fledgling ham and actually a new member of the ARES organization. We'll hear from John Gerhardt soon about that organization. But I just want to say that we had an exercise on April 3rd, I believe it was, where there was a request from the county to get some information, and it was transmitted through the ARES organization to the various micro-community leaders. And then we then engaged with the MERS radio holders in the North Rodeo Gulch community here, and asked the question. So we basically communicated a request for information from the county through ARES, through MERS, and then we leveraged our phone trees. And I called the very few members on the Hidden Valley Road phone tree, and I really encourage you to sign up for the phone tree. Although we may not have phone coverage in a real emergency, we all don't have MERS radios, and sometimes it's really important to be able to reach people by phone. So I encourage you to sign up for the phone tree. You can do that on the forum for Firewise.
But almost every single road on our micro communities have done the MERS test, and we've used the Dakota Alert MERS radios, which I recommended that we use last year. But I've been convinced that we need to change, and both Eric and Keith are going to program the new radios, and those are the Biotech radios, and they're over there. If you have the old radios, I can hear people saying, oh no, you can still use those. We're still using the same channels. The nice thing about the new radios, like Keith just said, is that you can actually, he's programmed it so you can hear fire, you can hear the sheriff, you can hear PG&E. So when you can't hear or you don't know what's going on with Code Red because they haven't announced, and you see smoke and you're wondering what the heck's going on, you can turn it on and you won't accidentally use the ham radio, because the ham radio, you have to be licensed for that. So it's kind of nice because you can actually hear what's going on, and I like that. And he's setting it up so he locked it so there's no way you can accidentally misuse it. So it's a really cool thing. But if you do have the Dakota MERS radios, I have those also. I like them because you can keep them on 24/7. I leave them on my house, and when there's noise, I can run upstairs and just check it out and see what's going on. So don't worry if you've already bought it, you can continue to use it. I actually bought both of them now, so I've got both, and I kind of feel comfortable. I also became a ham, so now I've got a ham license also. So that's, I'm really committed, but I'm not good at this stuff. This is all new to me. It's not my natural thing. I'm an educator. Okay, so for my speech today, I am talking about micro-communities. And I have organized the micro-communities. You can see this over here, this map. We have 18 micro-communities, and I've just established, we used to have 14, but I've actually increased it to 18, and they're all divided by different colors. The nice thing about this map is that it has topography, so you can see the valleys and the mountains, so you can see where it would be more dangerous and where wind might go up and down. It also has parcels, so you can see the parcels and the addresses, so you can see your addresses there. I've put in the micro-community leaders in white with a little star in every micro-community. And I'm really proud to say that of the 18 micro-communities, we have 17 micro-community leaders, which is pretty incredible. Thank you. Some of you don't know that you're micro-community leaders. So look up here, and if you see your name, you can email me with hate mail, which I'm used to getting now. But I figured if there's a micro community and you're working with me to do MERS radio communication, and you've filled out surveys and you've done things, that you're there. So I'm just putting you up. If you want me to take you off, I will take you off. But that's how I got 17. I'm still looking for Chardonnay, so if you know anybody that lives up on Chardonnay or in the area across from Chardonnay, this area right here, we don't know anybody who lives there, so it'd be really great to get them involved here. I've also added a little, like little Red Cross, like a medical Red Cross, because what I did was I got the list of the survey, and remember when you filled out whether or not you have a medical background and whether or not you have chainsaws? Well, anybody with a medical background, I put your name on this micro community, so if you come up here and take a look at this, you'll see how many medical people live in our area, and it's shocking how many people we have. We have so many doctors and nurses and EMTs and just people who know CPR. And anybody a CERT here? Okay, great. So we've got some CERT people. So we've got, and all those people are listed here, which is really powerful because I think we all need to know who's here. And this took me like 40 hours to put together, and this thing cost $130 to print at FedEx Kinko, so I'm not going to do it often. I'm going to wait till next year after I get more information and data put in, and I'll print it out for our next event. But it's a pretty comprehensive list of micro communities. Okay, one of the responsibilities to become a micro-community leader is that you encourage your neighbors to fill out the phone tree. And we just talked about the phone tree. And the phone tree isn't just phone. It's email, it's your address. It includes if you've got indoor pets or outdoor pets, if you've got somebody who might be non-ambulatory, in a wheelchair and might need help getting out, people who've got livestock. It includes all kinds of really important information. And I originally had a phone tree, and I know you guys get frustrated with me because I keep sending surveys and say, fill out this survey, and you think you've already filled it out, and you fill out phone trees and you think you've already filled it out. But this is, I'm hoping, will be the last phone tree, because it's going to be a phone tree that lives on our forum, but will continue to be there forever. So if you change your job and you've got a different phone number, it's your responsibility to go to our forum, which is on our website, and change your information. If you have a new dog or you lost a dog, you can put all that information. It's up to you to update it, and I feel that that's better than to create a phone tree and then have to re-update it all the time. Everybody's responsible to update their own information, their contact information. Should there be a power outage, micro-community leaders are supposed to download or print out the list of all their residents in their in their micro-community, so they can just knock on doors. They know who is non-ambulatory because they should have that list already printed out. So that's part of the responsibility of being a micro-community leader. Some micro-communities are really small, where they might just have 4 or 5 houses. So they're really lucky. My micro-community has 11 houses, but there's places like Hidden Valley Road that has 80 or more houses, and Amigo Road that has, probably 30 to 50 houses. I'm just guessing looking at this. So if you have a large area, you can subdivide your micro-community into smaller sub-micro-communities, and then I would still communicate with just one micro-community leader. I don't want to have 50 people to deal with. I want to deal with just my 18 micro-community leaders, and they contact the other subset, and then the subset contacts the neighbors. But it's important for us to all communicate, because when we lose power, which PG&E will cut our power, as we all know, and it just goes out anyhow, we lose cell, we lose our internet, we lose everything. I used to jump in my car every time the power went out just to go to Soquel Drive so I can figure out what's going on and call PG&E and find out when I'm going to get power back. And we can't have 260 households on the road to go get internet access. So we need people to work together. I'm a ham now, and I've got my MERS radio, so as soon as something comes up, Keith, Eric, and I will be on our MERS radios contacting all of the micro-community leaders, and all the micro-community leaders will contact all the neighbors and let them know what's going on. Is it time to evacuate, based on what we're hearing from OR3 and Central Fire? And the sheriff and Marco will be talking more about this real soon too. So we got that information. So the micro community leader position is an important position. Even if you're not here all the time, if you can encourage other neighbors to also get MERS radios. I don't think MERS radios are just for micro community leaders. I think everybody, all 260 households should get them. They cost $80. Keith and Eric will program them for you, and they live right here on Amigo and on Hidden Valley. So you're going to be able to have that and just turn it on and know what's going on. It's going to be really helpful. I also have a surprise. One of my students, Sean Gomez here, is going to be talking. He's the last speaker of today, and he's got a really cool project he's working on that's going to also save us. And he's also using his project just for North Rodeo Gulch for us, so we're really lucky. I'm really excited to have him talk to you about that. We're going to be talking about CERT, and I'm going to let David talk about that, and medical support and evacuation updates from HAMS. But it's essential for everybody to join the phone tree and to look and see where your micro community is. And if you don't see yourself up here, your address isn't there, let me know, and we'll make sure we put it in for next year. Our next speaker is David Dean, and he's with CERT. He's with Live Oak CERT, and he's going to talk to us about what it is to be a CERT. And I would like, just so you know, one of my future goals here is that we have a North Rodeo Gulch CERT, because we have 260 households up here, and I think it'd be really beneficial for us to have our own CERT team. But he's going to talk about what Live Oak is, and I'm part of his team also. Thank you.
All right. Many of you may not know what CERT is, the Community Emergency Response Team, but that's just an acronym, right? CERT is about readiness, people helping people, but also about keeping our rescuers safe as well. When widespread disasters strike, the professional responders are going to be busy. It's going to be up to us to when a disaster strikes, the professional responders are going to be busy, and it's going to be up to us to take care of our community. They're going to be overwhelmed, but people who are CERTs and volunteers are going to be trained in responding to these emergencies and develop life-saving skills with emphasis on decision-making ability, rescuer safety, and doing the greatest good for the greatest number of people. The local teams are aligned with fire service areas and are ready to provide immediate assistance locally or county-wide. When available, emergency service personnel are the best trained and equipped to handle emergencies. But following a catastrophic disaster, however, you and your community may be isolated for an extended period of time for a myriad of reasons, including the size of the area affected, if the communication systems go down, or if the roads become impassable. We offer a basic training program for free to all county residents. The basic curriculum was revised to include online training to meet COVID precautions, but hopefully that will be ending soon. Continuing education is also available to provide training beyond the basics and help assure that the CERTs remain competent and keep their skills viable. We're also now creating communication networks using the MERS radios, just like you guys. The CERT program is meant to encourage everyone in making their communities safer, more prepared, and more resilient whenever an incident occurs. Neighborhoods that are prepared for emergencies and disaster situations save lives. They reduce the severity of injuries, and they also help limit property and environmental damage. Contributing as an individual and working together with neighbors as a team helps develop stronger communities and improves the quality of life in the community. Community-based preparedness planning allows us all to prepare for and respond to anticipated disruptions and potential hazards following a disaster. As individuals, we can prepare our homes and families to cope during that critical period. As communities, we know and understand our neighborhoods better than the professional responders that service much larger areas. Neighborhood preparedness will enhance the ability of individuals and communities to reduce their emergency needs and to manage their existing resources until the professional assistance becomes available. Studies of behavior following disasters have shown that groups working together in the disaster period perform more effectively if there has been prior planning and training for their disaster response. They also show that organized grassroots efforts like this Firewise community are more successful because they're woven into the social and political fabric of the community. Neighborhood associations, schools, workplaces, places of worship, and other existing organizations all help bond your community. Effective response, therefore, requires comprehensive planning and coordination for everyone who will be involved: government, volunteer groups, private businesses, schools, and community organizations. The CERT program trains individuals to be assets to help their communities prepare for effective disaster response. With this training, individuals and community groups can be prepared to serve as crucial resources capable of performing many of the emergency functions needed in the immediate post-disaster period. When disaster strikes, whether it's damage caused by natural disasters such as earthquakes or disruptions of man-made technologies such as blackouts, it can affect all aspects of a community, including the government, private enterprise, and civic organizations. These events can severely restrict or overwhelm our response resources, communications facilities, transportation networks, and utilities. They may leave many individuals and neighborhoods cut off from outside support. I know you all know about damaged roads. There can be disrupted communication that may prevent your emergency responders from getting into critically affected areas. Because of this, for the initial period immediately following a disaster, individuals, households, and neighborhoods have to rely on their own resources. You may need to prepare for up to 3 days or longer. You want to plan for food, water, and shelter. Individual preparedness, planning, survival skills, and mutual aid within your neighborhoods and work sites during this initial period are essential measures in managing the aftermath of a disaster. What you do today will have a critical impact on the quality of your survival and your ability to help others safely and effectively. You'll be more resilient to any potentially disruptive event and the likely hazards in your community and your community's plans and protocols. Understanding those specific protective actions and response skills, and you'll assemble important emergency supplies, mitigating potential hazards in your home. You'll be an important asset to your family, neighbors, and other members of your community. If you'd like to know more, please visit the website at santacruzcountyscert.org. You can find all kinds of training offered there. And you can also stop by and ask me plenty of questions at my table over there. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I do encourage you to become CERTs. I became a CERT last October, I think, during COVID, and it's a really great organization. And I think if we have a lot of CERTs up and down North Rodeo Gulch, we'll be in a position to be able to take care of one another. I'd like to introduce John. I'm sorry I messed up my order here, but this is John Gerhardt, and he's from Gerhardt is from Aries.
Thank you, Susan. I'm John Gerhardt. I'm in charge of Aries for Santa Cruz County. And ham radio is a great hobby. It's a lot of fun. There's lots of things you can do with ham radio. People talk all around the world to all different people. You can bounce radio signals off the moon. There's lots of contests you can join in order to get the most points. But what I like most about ham radio is community service aspect and talking around the county. This little radio, this is a ham radio, it looks very much like the other all kinds of other radios. With the excellent MERS radios that Keith and Eric are recommending, used properly, you can talk around your neighborhood. Very important when the infrastructure goes out. With this little guy, I can talk around the county. What's so good about this? It's actually got the same amount of power as the MERS radios. It's got similar electronics. I'll tell you what makes a difference. It's got flexibility. I can program it for a wide range of different operating frequencies. I know how to use it. And hams, at their own expense, have put up very robust repeaters on high spots all around the county. So all I have to do with my little radio is talk to the repeater station. It rebroadcasts what I've said, and I can cover the whole county that way. The really important thing, though, is that there are lots of hams like me around the county who are trained and motivated, who will listen and who are willing to help if I need help. ARES is the Amateur Radio Emergency Service. We're an organization for hams who are interested in community service and emergency response. There are more than 70 members around the county. We're adding more every day. We're registered disaster service workers, like CERT people. So we get official-looking badges. These are fun. And it's the organization, really, that makes the difference. But this radio, even though I like it and I claim it works well, it's no good unless I use it regularly, because I've got to remember how to do it. Practice is really the most important thing. Within the ARES group, we encourage people to continually use their radios. We have 2 training nets a week. We have ARES folks down at the County Emergency Operations Center every Wednesday, verifying our communication links around the state. And we do fun things that involve the use of radio. We serve various public service events. The Big Sur Marathon is tomorrow. I'll be down there on the course at aid station number 4, helping communicate around the event to make sure there's a very quick response if anything is required. The Strawberry Fields Bicycle event is coming up. We'll have hams all around that course in South County. Santa Cruz Triathlon, Santa Cruz Mountain Challenge. These are all events where we have an opportunity to use our communication skills for public service, and as it turns out, they're excellent training for disasters, because at big events there are always things that don't happen as scheduled. ARES hams were useful during the CSU lightning fires in a number of ways. One way was to team with the Equine evac folks going into dangerous evacuation zones to service animals that had been left behind. And by having constant radio communications in these areas where the cell phones no longer worked, it enabled the sheriff's office to be comfortable sending, civilians into these restricted areas. That's a great activity for us. The PG&E power shutoffs, we all know, have killed landline phones, killed cell phones around the county. So we set up 911 reporting centers under our little pop-up tent where people could report emergencies when their cell phones didn't work. So I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, gosh, John, this sounds wonderful. How can I join this terrific group? You're all thinking that, right? Well, you need a ham license, but you don't have to be some kind of brainiac techno nerd to get it. What you need to do is pass the easiest kind of exam there is. Remember from school, the easy exams were the multiple choice ones, right? Well, to get a ham license, you need to pass a 35-question multiple choice test, and you only need to get 26 of the answers right. And you do that, you get a ham license, and then, of course, the license by itself isn't magic. Then you just need practice, and that's what our group does. We practice this stuff, and we have fun doing it. So if you're interested in that, or like to learn more about it, come by our blue pop-up over there when you have a chance. We'll talk to you individually. We'll help you join the group. That's what we're about. Thanks very much.
Thank you, John. And John's right. The test is really easy. I actually took it and passed it. And I was so stressed out that I was...
get chocolate?
Yes.
Cool.
See, come back next year. But I'm serious. I took the ham test and I was sweating bullets. I thought, as a matter of fact, when I finished the test, I was so depressed. I looked at the guy because it was proctored on Zoom, and there's 3 guys watching me take it to make sure I wasn't cheating. And I looked at them and I said, when can I take it again? before I even got my score, and they said, you passed. And I just said, oh my God, if I passed, I think anybody could pass. So it really is easy, and it's a great way to have the communication with fire and have the communication with ORC. So it's great. Our next speaker is Marco Mack. And Marco Mack is the Deputy Fire Marshal for Central Fire. And Marco has been to all of my events, and he has worked tirelessly with all of our road associations. And today he's speaking twice, but today for this portion he's speaking about the address signs, which we all need. We need 260 of these by the end of this year.
Hello everybody, my name is Marco Mack. I'm your Deputy Fire Marshal, Central Fire. And Susan, wow, this is awesome. And it's wonderful being a regulator, being able to interact with residents and people like you as stakeholders versus here's a violation and a notice. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Make sure you fix this, okay? But thanks to you, there it is, yes. Thanks to you and to your husband and to your daughter are out here as well. And the integration that you've done with your neighbors, and then we have other neighbors from other Firewise neighborhoods that, wow, this is impressive. Like, holy crap, lady, you've done a lot of good work. Yes. Yes. Oh. But watch out for the holy crap out there in the meadow too, as we walk away to your car. So let me give you a big picture. 2 years ago, we went to our fire chief. In fact, our fire chief is out here, John Walbridge, and our deputy chief, Jason Nees, over here in the corner. And so John Walbridge, he's really old. He's going to retire in a month. So make sure you say hello to him. How many days? 9 days. Wow. Holy crap. So the board has already decided that Jason Nees is going to be our new fire chief. If you'd like to meet him, he's over here. And they're committed to Firewise. They're committed to engaging residents as stakeholders. And you can see here that we've been able to move really, really forward with our engagement with the community in a different aspect. We do enforcement, but if we can engage as stakeholders, it's a totally different relationship. And what we've found is we've identified needs and concerns. Here's what the firefighters' capabilities are. They're limited out here because outside the urban service boundary, you guys provide the access. You provide the water supply. And then you're all on parcels that were all developed long before the standards were in place, like you would have in an area that's newly developed. If this was to be newly developed, we'd have 20-foot wide access roads. You'd have all this aspect and all these things put into place before you even were able to occupy any of the homes. So how do we replace this missing infrastructure? And it's a significant problem in the Bay Area for access and firefighting capability. So to make the change, to make these transitions for replacing missing infrastructure is one, we need to acknowledge it as fire, that these are the limitations, engage in relationships with you folks, so that way we can actually start working on what's the best way to replace missing infrastructure. And if we did these things incrementally, it'll significantly improve our firefighting capability. And also, how do we deal with your concerns, your needs, your fears for wildfire, and what's the next step you can do around your property. So here's the idea. You get the political people involved. You get the jurisdictions that have responsibility, the emergency manager, the sheriff's department, the fire department, the chiefs association, and then how do we engage the residents? Well, Firewise is what we do in your neighborhood. There's another level that's really well supported in this county, not every county, and it's the Fire Safe Council. The Fire Safe Council is made up of the emergency manager, the sheriffs are involved, fire is involved as guidance for a group of residents that want to do something countywide. So there's another level of all this. And then Susan has been involved in some of those meetings, but she's way focused on you guys to actually expend energy in it. And we have volunteers from other neighborhoods that have been doing this for 5 years, 10 years. And part of my idea and the time that I've spent with many of you in your neighborhoods outside of North Rodeo Gulch would be eventually you folks can move in to help us with this countywide aspect. And that's an area that we're getting grants. Your Board of Supervisor, Banu, had identified that the Fire Safe Council and OR3 have been able to get near $1 million of proposed grants in. Well, as a county agency, special district, the county's public works, all the water districts and the rest of it, we don't have money to hire someone to do grants, but we can set money aside in our budget for the Fire Safe Council and the Resource Conservation District, two nonprofits that can actually bring someone in and actually create a grant proposal. So we're creating this mechanism in place that we can actually respond, and eventually what we're doing is incrementally between all of our different special districts and agencies is looking at this idea over the next year. If we pull our monies together, we can actually hire someone to help all of us with our wildfire risk management. So we're working at this process of how do we replace missing infrastructure for our agencies and capability, as well as helping you folks with our concerns, and then creating a future plan. So here's an idea of a future plan for North Rodeo Gulch. How come the road's not wider? How come the drainage isn't maintained? And what would it look like if you were to develop it today? How close can we get there? What's it going to cost? Who's going to pay for it? And then the first step would be, do you want it? Is it reasonable cost to do it incrementally with a little bit of planning? So who's going to pay for the cost of actually developing a proposal of what it could be and what are those actual costs? And then we can pursue grants. And that's the long-term aspect. And if the residents have support for that, we're looking at the special districts, the Fire Safe Council, OR3, then working with our political people for, well, let's create pathways for the residents to reduce their wildfire risks. That fits in dynamically with it. How do we set money aside for it? How can we submit a successful grant proposal to help offset a significant portion of the cost of that? So that's the aspects of things that are happening behind the scene. You as residents, I'd urge you to get involved with your Firewise neighborhood. I'd urge you to get involved with the county's Fire Safe Council. Look at the state Fire Safe Council. There's significant monies and revenues and grants being shuffled through CAL FIRE and Office of Emergency Service, and much of it for wildfire is actually being driven through those different agencies. Something that we're doing locally, our fire district for you in North Rodeo Gulch, CAL FIRE and OES is creating a new funding mechanism for individual homeowners to access grant monies to help offset home hardening costs. So if you have a very dangerous roof, let's replace the roof. If you've got a deck that's a significant risk, particularly if you're on mid-slope, top of slope with fuels leading up to it, and it's like kindling attached to your house, we need to get that thing changed. There's other components that are happening right now. We're involved, and the chiefs have allowed me to spend time with our Board of Forestry and some of the regulatory things that are happening. I have a flyer on our desk back there for a meeting this next week, May 4th, for what's called Zone 0 regulations. We've all talked to you, and Tony Aiken, he's right over here. Tony's our defensible space inspector that's done a lot of work in here and spoken to many of you. We're going to be working this year with your road associations, interacting with you and your residents. And then Tony's been talking to you about the 5-foot area near your house, 30 foot out and out to 100 foot. So Zone 0 is this 0 to 5 foot area. More than half, up to 90% of the homes that are lost had ignitable material within 5 feet of your house. So that way a fire could burn from San Jose over the hill and come all the way and touch your house. And then a type of fire where there's a large fire and embers are being cast and you're downwind from the fire and those embers are landing around your house. An ember lands. I need to wrap this up, right? And then you would have to be able to put that fire out. So there's regulations that are happening and being developed. Go to our table in the back on May 4th. There's information for you to actually monitor that regulatory process. So for you folks, that 0 to 5 foot zone would be something for implementation a year from now. So it's something in the future. So we've been engaging with you. So I worked on a fire engine as a captain for 20 years, and it's like, hey, drive up this road. There it is. Do you see an address on that house? No. Well, get out and find out they call 911. And then, okay, that's not it. Let's go to the next house. So it's like, holy crap, we're trying to go to medical aid. Someone might be having a heart attack. Someone has a cut finger, whatever it might be. How frustrating it is. And this is something that's very, very important to be able to improve what you can do. And if you're at the top of the hill everyone down the street from you, if you don't have an address, it could end up delaying us getting to your house. We have a flyer at our table that gives some guidance for this, whether you're in this area. Let's see, 1 minute's there right there. And it's applicable to you. And if you're outside of the Central Fire District, it's good guidance. It's something that we're trying to get implemented countywide. So at our table, if you have a specific need, more than happy to help you with this. And then Susan has taken this on, and her street and her neighborhood, walking up and down the street, we helped her with where to place these, where to go, and we'll do that with you folks as well.
Yeah, he actually came up our road and told us exactly where the signs go. Thank you, Marco. Woo. Marco will be back. He's going to be talking about evacuation smarts. Our next speaker is Nicole D'Arcy. She's Dr. D'Arcy. She's my daughter, and she is going to be talking about wildland fire injuries. Thanks, Nicole.
Hey, guys. Thank you. So I'm Nicole D'Arcy, obviously her daughter, but I'm also an ER doc at Valley Medical Center over in San Jose, which is our trauma center. We get a lot of traumas that come from here. It's the burn center and the regional rehab. So some of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about today are what injuries you're going to sustain during an evacuation potentially, and especially wildfire injuries, so burns, and what you guys can do in first aid. Obviously, taking a first aid class, CPR classes, as previously mentioned, is a good idea, but I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what you should be packing for in your go bags to prepare for injuries, as well as what to just keep in your go bags for your regular medical needs. So to start with, general wound management, you cut yourself. You don't want to bleed out. You hold pressure. That doesn't mean with a big towel, right? That makes it so you can't see the blood, but really what it's going to do is it's going to absorb the blood. So you're about holding pressure until the blood vessels, those arteries, those veins are going to constrict, spasm. The clotting factors will help you clot, and the bleeding stops. It's like with a bloody nose. You don't keep checking. Every time you check, you release the pressure, and it's going to prolong the amount of time you're bleeding. So stop the bleed. It's a campaign actually put forward for the United States in the era of active shooters, and was just deployed in the Ukraine as well. I've got a bunch of equipment, most importantly gauze and things like that, as well as splinting materials, tourniquets, all of those things over at the table if you guys are interested in talking about that more. Moving on, you want to clean the wound, right? You take out the dirt, the gravel, the debris, those twigs, all of those things that carry bacteria. You keep the wound clean. How do you do that? High pressure. You know how when you put your finger over a garden hose, you're making the hose smaller, and so the pressure gets higher? Same thing for when you're cleaning a wound. That means you're going to not just pour a regular water bottle on your arm when it's cut. You're going to take a hot nail, put a small hole in it, and you're going to squeeze that pressure out. You want to irrigate the wound. You want to clean it out, especially if it's going to be a prolonged evacuation and you are at risk for spending a day or two before you get to medical care, which is what we saw when I was deployed in Napa. For the fires back in 2017, we had a lot of delayed injuries that were coming in infected. Keep it clean. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to close the wound. That usually involves a butterfly bandage. That is a little bit more complicated than a Band-Aid, but the idea is the butterfly wings are the sticky part of the Band-Aid, and you grab onto one side of the wound, you pull it over with the other wing, you bring it in, and that body of the butterfly in the middle doesn't have any adhesive on it, and that goes right over your wound. Bring it together. You can do this with duct tape. I've got a bunch of kinds of tape over here to show you guys as well. But the idea is you want to keep it clean. You want to keep it closed when you don't have stitches, staples, skin glue, all those things that we have in the hospital. I brought all the cool stuff from the hospital too, so for you to play with. Next, when you do get a burn from wildfires, we have to talk about that since we're here with the fire department. There are a lot of different kinds of burns. We used to call them first, second, third, partial, superficial, all of that nonsense. The idea is it the top layer of skin? Does it come down into the fat? Does it go to the muscle? Does it go to the bone? How deep is it? And that goes from superficial to full thickness. These burns are going to be painful the more superficial they are. They're less painful when you kill the nerves. Again, you're going to want to keep it clean, do the same hydration techniques that we talked about before, and trick here, do not pop your blisters. I know a lot of people like to pop the blisters. It's very satisfying. You feel better because that pressure was putting some pressure on your nerves and it hurts. Don't do it. Every time you open your skin, we live in skin bags that protect us from the outside world and germs, keep the water in so we don't evaporate. When you break your skin bag, you're introducing infection. So don't pop your blisters unless you're running from the fire and you really need to put your shoes on and you have to pop your blister to get your foot in the shoe. That's okay. just try not to if it's avoidable. Preventing infection, especially for that prolonged evacuation that we see with these people who are displaced from wildfires. Cool things for burns, you actually can treat with honey. Honey is a natural antibacterial. We tend to have that. We may not have the cool tubes of antibiotic ointment just sitting around. You can use Neosporin, bacitracin, any sort of antibiotic ointment, but also there's something called Medi honey, looks just like this, or you can just use regular honey, put that on the wound, then you put the gauze and the tape over top to keep it clean and dry. Other big thing for any kind of wound, but especially for burns, is you're going to expect the area to swell. So if you get burned on your hand, which is the most common place to get burned, you need to take off your rings, your watches, your jewelry, and any sort of tight restrictive clothing. I can't tell you how many times I've had to remove jewelry with those big diamond cutters. It happens for all kinds of reasons. If you know you've just been injured, or you know that you may become injured in this kind of situation, take all of that restrictive stuff off, because you're going to cut off blood supply and then you're going to lose a finger. I've seen it happen, don't love it. In terms of things to bring with you, you're going to get dehydrated. Remember, if you have any sort of breaks in your skin bag, burns, breaks the skin, cuts, breaks the skin, vomiting, diarrhea from food poisoning, you exert yourself, you're running from a fire, you have to carry heavy things up a hill, you're trying to corral your dogs to get in the car so you can escape. All of these things are going to be expending a lot more fluid. You're breathing faster, you're sweating, and if you've broken your skin bag again, you're going to be just evaporating off that water. So stay hydrated. I like to keep Pedialyte and Gatorade in the disaster go bag. You can water that down with just regular water as well, but the idea is you want water, electrolytes, salts, and sugars. Bring it with you. Getting on to the go bag part of this, I do have some handouts over at the table that you guys are welcome to grab a sheet that has everything that I've just said on a piece of paper in terms of equipment. But one of the big things, especially for people who take daily medications, is you want to have a medication list in your wallet with the medication name and the dose. What we saw with a lot of these evacuations, you show up at the American Red Cross tent and you say, hey, I need my medications. They're in the computer. I guarantee you they're not in the computer. You need to have this on your med list. This is something that should always be in your wallet, because no one wakes up in the morning and thinks, okay, I'm going to crash my car and I'm going to end up at Valley and they're going to cut my clothes off and ask me what my medications are. No one wakes up thinking that happens, but I guarantee you it happens every day. So keep your medication list in your wallet, keep a copy of it in your go bag. In terms of those really important medications, I would get a backup, ask for an early refill, try to put it into your go bag, especially things like heart medications, blood thinners, EpiPens if you need them, and inhalers. Remember, all that smoke is going to trigger anyone who has any component of reactive airway disease, asthma, COPD. You're the kind of person who wheezes when you get the cold or the flu. That's the kind of person who needs to bring these things with them. So bring an extra one, pop it in your go bag so you're not trying to escape without your medications and adding to the problem. So med lists in your wallet, in your go bag, all your medications that you would need emergently, especially inhalers, EpiPens, Benadryl, things like that. And I've got the handouts of all this stuff and a bunch of cool medical supplies for you to play with over at the table if you guys have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, so we are going to break for lunch. We've got Harpin Jonny and Clark out playing music for us, and go visit all the vendors that are out there talking about their products. Take a look at things, order your MERS radios, order your address signs and installation over there, and talk to all the people here.
Sorry about this. I'm jumping on the stage here. This is entirely impromptu. I just wanted to let you guys know that to put this on, she alone has paid $3,500. Like when she mentioned the photocopy here, $120 just for it. So there's so much going on that we're all unaware of. And she's such a noble and honorable person that she said, we've got this fundraiser going on, which is basically a couple of dollars on the burritos that you're just about to eat, but it'll probably be $300 or $400. And she has been stepping up and coughing up the rest of it. So I would like to encourage you, if you can, only if you can, there's no guilt associated with any of this, but if you can, throw in $10 or $20 or whatever you see fit in that little jar over there. That would really be a wonderful thing to do, and it would, of course, be so helpful to her on so many levels. And I think we're already coming together, and you've already made that commitment. And if you're feeling like that was 1 hour of essential knowledge that we received here, and we've got another hour to come, if you're feeling that's kind of worth it, then if you could pop a little donation in that jar, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody, and thanks again to Susan.
My money and invested it with care, but when I called my banker, she said there's nothing.
Fire, Salinas, California. What we do here, we do fire stations. We have 5 pounds, we have 2.5 pounders, and also we provide service for the sprinkler systems of the houses. We could be put on the inside, also on the attic protection. And also we do commercial systems for sprinkler. And we also do first-aid service for any shopping center or any office like the others. We're located in Salinas, California. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cindy Weigel, and I'm representing Chris Coolidge State Farm. We're here today to make sure that people know that they have an option if they think the only option they have is the California Fair Plan, so the state run. So call State Farm, find out everything, check your email, check your address, and we'll let you know if we can actually send you a quote.
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Fulkerson with Santa Cruz Communication Support. We are an 501c nonprofit that helps support volunteers who provide community communications. We're very excited to be part of this group and wanting to help interweave all the different types of communications that happen. Welcome, and hope you can stop by and check us out. Thanks.
Hi, I'm David. I'm with the Live Oak CERT team. We kind of take care of all the parts of the unincorporated area in and around Live Oak that would include this community. Susan is one of our members. What we do is we try and train people to be ready in the event of emergency. The first thing that they should take care of course, is themselves. Then they want to take care of their neighbors, right? So you want to be prepared for all kinds of disasters. This is my search and rescue bag, which is for like the event of an earthquake. It's got all kinds of personal protection equipment and ropes and things that you can use to help people who might be stuck in a situation because of an earthquake. And, so these are the kinds of trainings and equipment that you learn to use and have available so that you can help protect your community.
Hi, my name is Angie Richmond and I work for the Santa Cruz Resource Conservation District. I'm here today at the NRG Firewise Event talking to people about our spring no-cost shipping program that helps homeowners within the wildland urban interface create defensible space around their homes. And it's open now and it closes April 30th.
Hi, my name is Phil Irwin. I'm the Public Relations Representative for the California Fair Plan. We're out here today to just answer questions for anyone that has a policy with the California Fair Plan today or is concerned that they may have a problem getting insurance in the future based on the changing appetite of the insurance companies out there. We just want to help everybody understand how the Fair Plan works and answer any questions they might have about our products.
Hi, my name's Danny Cortazzo. My company is Fire Defense Service. It's a family-run business. First off, I'd just like to say to the N Rodeo Gulch, you guys are way ahead of the game in the fact that you're preparing for the emergency before it happens. Kudos to you guys. Our system, basically, we lease a fire system that hopefully the homeowner knows how to use in case of an emergency, but the fire department can also utilize it as a water source and a positive pressure supply that goes all the way around the homeowner's house. We use all the equipment that we'd see on a standard fire engine, and they wouldn't have to use their equipment. We want to make your home more attractive to the fire service.
Hi, I'm Mike DeMars. I'm the Fire Marshal for Central Fire District. So here at this Firewise Safety event today up on N Rodeo Gulch, and we are promoting wildfire safety and defensible space for the communities and the people that live in this area. Hopefully we'll be able to better prepare them for this year's fire season.
I'm Sean Gomez. I'm here with a CyberDeck project. So pretty much it's an offline computer. Up here in N Rodeo Gulch, reception's pretty spotty. So having information on you, on the go, without the need for Wi-Fi or data, it's powerful. Knowledge is power.
Hi, I'm Locatelli Ranch. I am an ER doctor at Santa Clara Valley Medical Center Emergency Department, trained in EMS and disaster medicine. And I came here today to talk to everyone about what you need in your go bag and how to do basic first aid for wildfire burns and any sort of injuries that you would sustain while evacuating. So I highly recommend thinking about all of these things now so that you're not panicking about what to bring with you when you get the call that you need to evacuate. Basic first aid supplies, as well as a list of your medications, their doses, the medications that you need to survive, your inhalers, your EpiPens, your heart medications, and get your tetanus shot every 10 years to prevent all of those dirty wounds from turning into infections. Be prepared, think about it now, and you won't be stressed when it happens.
Hello, I'm Drew with Scope Signs. I'm the sign maker. We're trying to get all the neighborhood to make these or to have these signs. I'll put them up for you, so give us a call.
Hi, I'm Keith Trinity. I'm helping out with the radios. We're setting everybody up with the Mures radio. We can talk amongst our neighborhood when there's an emergency or you hear sirens.
Well, I get up in the morning. You know, it's like a gypsy. It's something off of some obscure CD. I don't know. It's somebody's original tune. It's it's not a. It was somebody in the U.S.
Okay, everybody, Marco Mack, Deputy Fire Marshal, Central Fire. Wildfire evacuation, very, very challenging. And one of the ideas that we have to deal with would be, when do you evacuate, how do you get notified, and where do you go? And there's interest in having an evacuation plan and a route, but it is quite dependent on where's the wildfire at, how big is it, and how prepared are you to understand what your wildfire risks are when you're evacuating. One of the things that we're trying to come up with would be that need. So there's some training that we're trying to put together through the Fire Safe Council, and our fire district has been working with several volunteer groups and neighbors for test driving this type of training and an outreach. And my vision is that we would end up, anyone that lives in this area where you're outside of the urban service boundary, you're around areas that don't have irrigated lawns, you don't have government provided urban streets and structure and fire hydrants, and the wildfire risk can be very, very significant. So my experience on a fire engine, my training is that we go to a house, we protect that house, we wait for the fire to come, the fire comes and burns through the house, we protect ourselves when that high intensity fire comes through, and then that way we would circle around the house and we would put out any small fires. The house has to save itself, and then we would actually put out any lingering fires so that way we can go protect the next house. So in this dynamic of evacuation involves understanding high intensity fire, staying away from high intensity fire, and one idea of what to recognize for residents would be, where's a safe place to go? So if the fire is coming through and I can't get out of the way of it, what do I do? So some evacuation smarts are needed. So we're looking at putting a training class together that has basic wildfire behavior, recognizing high intensity fire, helping people stay away from that high intensity fire, and then it would be these evacuation smarts that if you're in this situation. So the other challenge in this area, Bay Area, we have Muir Road, runs up this hillside, and then I've got a road that isn't wide enough for two people to pass. If the people at the top of the hill discover that there's a fire down the street from them and the fire engine comes and parks, they're not getting out. So what do? So we're working with individuals in this area with guidance for, if you can't get out, you need to have a safe place to retreat to protect yourself. What does that look like? So we've been working with the individual residents trying to accommodate that, but that would be something where you would maybe need to do extra work around your house to make this place even a bit more safe. So that's a very challenging dynamic of direct access for them having information for what do I do? So all of us have that challenge in this area, all of us with narrow roads, and you can't come out. So if you come down the street and then you're going to decide, do I turn left or right as I get to North Rodeo Gulch? If the smoke's over there, you go that way. If you can go to an area that has infrastructure, so that we call it the urban service boundaries, the area that the government provides access and roadway and water supply, and then also in the urban service boundary you have irrigated lawns. The wildfire intensity burning home to home, yard to yard is entirely different. If you're in North Road in Santa Cruz Gardens, at the top of the hill, you could have high intensity fire come out between 1 or 2 homes. Go 100 feet down the road, you're away from high intensity fire. You could walk away from it. Everything might be burning. So part of the aspects of this evacuation aspect that we're trying to work through the Fire Safe Council and a training class would be, if you get in your car and you decide to drive, do you know where the fire's at? Where are you going? On the fire engine, we have these 10 standard orders and situations that shout, watch out, that were incorporated with every wildfire injury to a firefighter and every fire death. So you can't violate these 10 standard orders. And one is, I'm driving in the dark in an area I've never been before and I don't know where the fire's at. Look out, man. You're putting yourself at risk. You need to get that information. You need to be very cautious. And then we have some mechanisms of what we do and function, and we'll have some lookouts. I'm going to send one of my 5 fire engines from here to there. These others are going to wait to make sure that other guy gets there and it's safe. Then we're going to go and drive. We have these incremental aspects. So we're setting you guys loose where, okay, I live here and there's a road off the back that I go up this and I can connect with that other area. Do you know where the fire's at? Is that actually going to put you in more risk and danger? And then I've worked with some of the people here, Becky Steinbrunner here. We've gone in her neighborhood. The longest dead-end road, and most people in my fire district are associated on Redwood Drive. And they're mid-slope, top of slope, potential high-risk fire, and you could be trapped, and the road doesn't meet the current standards. So what are we going to do in that area? So some ideas, and we've talked to these strategies for concepts that we could bring to you in your neighborhood, and we're trying to figure it out in different areas, such as Redwood Drive, and it would be, is there a safe place to retreat to, a safety zone? This property right here. Our fire inspectors have worked with the owners, Locatellis, for this is an ideal area. If I drove during a wildfire and I parked where your parking lot is at, and so this would be September, October, November, the grass is all dead, but it's mowed. And look how far away you can be from the trees and potential high intensity fire. You're a good distance away. You're down low. If I was at the top of the hill and a fire rushed up the hillside and that high intensity fire, there's a thermal column running along the slope of the road. I'm exposed to this thermal column and a flaming fire front. Down here, depending on the wind direction, the fire is going to back its way down the hill, very low intensity fire. So we're trying to provide a training class in a 15-minute, 45-minute, and a 4-hour version that would give you some guys some guidance for what are these aspects, what are the important things that I need to know. So it's a work in progress. My idea is that we're working with different residents to test drive this training class. Am I meeting the end results of what this is supposed to be delivering? One idea would be a TED Talk introduction for what's the issues, what are the basics, and where to go and get more information. So I like that TED Talk idea, not necessarily making it a TED Talk, but just the format of it. That would be ideal. And then we're working with several other residents in addition to Susan for, let's create that.
That's great. We're going to be doing the TED Talk and for the evacuation smarts. Can you talk a little bit about that? A lot of the residents here on North Rodeo Gulch have talked to both you and Tony about shelter in place versus evacuation, and I think we've all heard that, oh yeah, we should shelter in place, and oh no, we should evacuate. And if we don't hear from the OR3, what can you tell us about making smart decisions about whether or not we should leave?
So let's start on the big picture. I'm older, my husband is ill and weak, and I'm living in an area that's subject to wildfire, and I don't want to manage it. I don't want to deal with it. So if you're in Florida on the coast, you go inland where there's infrastructure. So maybe when a red flag event's coming and you're in this one dynamic, we're going to relocate to an area that it's in the urban service boundary. There's a lot of infrastructure. I'm not going to manage it. So it would be leaving early, being aware of when's red flag coming. They do a good job of predicting it. And then that way you're looking at the weather, and then through our Firewise networks, we're notifying you that, hey, this next weekend in four days, there's a chance of a wind event. That's when you're at risk of a significant high-intensity fire. A fire in the morning when it's dewy out, low-intensity fire. Very difficult to get something challenging. If you have a wind event and a multiple days of low humidity and red flag, high-intensity fire is coming. So it would be weather-dependent. So what you need to do with you and your neighbors would be notification of when it's coming and what steps am I going to do when I get to red flag. Let's focus on that. What steps do you need to do between you and your neighbors and around your house, and then more awareness so I'm ready to go depending on what my situation is. So I described a situation up here where there's a fire down your street versus a fire coming over the hill. So the county system for evacuation is designed for, hey, the fire's going to be coming over here. You guys need to evacuate. You need to be out by 6 p.m. That's what we saw with the CZU fire. And then they ended up evacuating all the way into Scotts Valley. And it was well notified and timing, and it was projected. So the problem would be there's a fire down the street from me, and I can't even get out. Where do I go? So you have an alternate plan. So we have to work with you. And what we're looking at doing in your neighborhood in this area would be, let's work with each of the private road associations for their plan and what they can do to their private road to help reduce these wildfire risks. And then there would be a common area such as this that we could retreat to, and then your backup if you can't get here. But the basic would be, there's a wildland fire, the high-intensity fire with the wind events. The wind is normally coming from the northwest to the north to the east. So that's September, October, November. That's our biggest risk would be the wind event. Tree torches, embers get thrown downwind. I've got multiple fires. It's well beyond the capability of the fire department to control it and contain it. That's a wildfire risk for evacuation for residents. If there's a fire and it's an acre and we're actually able to control it and maintain it, it's going to be controlled and maintained because it doesn't exceed the local emergency response capability. A lot of dynamics with this, aren't there? It's very challenging. So our plan would be to work with local road associations to come up with an evacuation plan and awareness for them, and then they've got several different options to consider. My idea of the end result of, I need an evacuation plan and evacuation routes. Well, you need this other information as well to actually implement it. And that's much, much more critical. So we're looking at helping you with the right information.
Yes.
What parts did I miss?
That's great, and that's what we're going to do. As a matter of fact, for North Rodeo Gulch and for all Firewise communities, contact Marco and ask him to be part of this, because Marco and I are organizing this class together. It's called Evacuation Smarts. Like he said, 15 minutes, 45 minutes, and
an hour.
1 hour and 4 hours.
4 hours. The idea for the 4-hour class would be like you're a fire safe council volunteer and you're helping residents, and you need to know basic wildfire behavior so I can help residents understand their wildfire risk. The wildfire risk around your home is get rid of the things that create high intensity fire.
And that's what's great. And Marco will actually go with all of Central Fire, and I'm so proud and so happy that we are part of Central Fire, because they will actually come out and work with you on your roads to help you figure out how to protect yourself. Marco and I have walked up and down my road. I just live right across the street, probably a dozen times now. He knocks on doors and says, hey, you need the signs, or you need this. And we're talking about brown signs, the road signs. We've got a 30,000 gallon tank. I mean, there's a lot of things that Marco's working on. He's part of this, what's the name of that group? The South Bay
Firewise Partners?
Yeah, South Bay Firewise Partners, and he puts things in there. He lets us know when there's wind advisory. He lets us know all kinds of things. And I look at it, the first thing I do when I wake up, and I put it up on my forum, our forum. So please go to the forum. I don't do the email. It takes so long to email. I have to do individual. Then they have to respond to me individually. I like to just post to the forum. Becky Steinbrunner also posts all the time on there, and they always post really pertinent, important things. I figure out what I think you're interested in, because I don't want to overwhelm you, and we post. So please go to the forum and check that out, and join us if you want to become part of the Evacuation Smarts. We are putting this class together, the 3 classes, and we need volunteers. And please let me know if you want to be part of that, because it's going to be great. And I think anybody in your community would be benefit if you did this. So thank you. Good question. You go to nrgfirewise.com/forum. and you have to first get into the forum. So you have to send me, it sends me an email, and then I admit you. Once you're admitted, then you're part of the forum. You choose your micro community, and there you can talk to your micro community just privately, but then you're also part of our whole forum where you'll get all of our general information. And Marco's part of this also, but he doesn't post there. He posts to the general Firewise groups, and then I take that and post in our group. But that's where I put everything that I think is important. As a matter of fact, if you go look, we probably have 50 or 60 posts up there already, and everything in there is going to save you money on shipping. It's going to tell you about all kinds of services that I found that are really valuable. And so it's beneficial for all of us. Okay, our next speaker is Nick Baldridge, and he's with the Santa Cruz County Sheriff, and he's going to talk to us today about evacuation process, Code Red, and OR3. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought it was easy when you first started as a new deputy. We as cops run after the bad guys and firefighters run into fire, and it was that simple. I learned very quick that is not it. So I'm going to talk to you about evacuations, how the sheriff's office enacts those. We are the responsible body for evacuations in the unincorporated area of the county. So we have plans for that, and we take those forward. So couple things. Dave Reed with OR3, he mentioned Zone Haven. If you go to zonehaven.com, I'd flag it and earmark it in your internet browser so you can always pull it up. It is a 24/7 forward-facing to the public outline of all the different zones. So each zone is broken up by fire district, and then sub-zones are broken up into those. And those are what we use to make initial notifications. So if a fire event occurs, and it's in this is Central Fire E006 is this zone. If a fire event was to happen that was going to affect this, we would light up that zone as an evacuation order or warning, depending on where we're at. If it's an immediate evacuation, that order would go in place. So you'd be able to see that on that website. In addition to that, all of those zones are pre-loaded into our dispatch center, so that when we say send out the Code Red alert, which again, as Dave mentioned, register with Code Red, when we request that Code Red alert be sent out, it will automatically send out to everybody that's within that zone. They're already preloaded in the program so that they're quick. And then, in addition to those going out, so that's the initial, it's happening, we're doing evacuations, and now we need to do the evacuations on the ground. The sheriff's office, we have one of these binders for every single zone in the entire county of Santa Cruz. They're pre-designated in locations that are close to where those zones are. And so if an evacuation was to happen, we would grab the tote of these binders and start deploying teams to do evacuations. Contained within these binders are all the planning for us. It includes for this zone, I can tell you there's 230 addresses in this zone, which means that during an evacuation event, the sheriff's office will be knocking on 230 doors. We will be deploying teams. They will be doing evacuation notices door to door as we do that. A lot of this pre-planning was learned from the CZU fire, where we evacuated, the sheriff's office and allied agencies evacuated all the residents in that area going door to door, but also using the Zone Haven and Code Red apps. So that just makes our job easier if you're in those applications to get those notifications and know that, hey, it's happening, I can already get out. And when we go knock on a door and no one's there, we can jump to the next rather than getting people evacuated and out. So it allows us to work more efficiently in those evacuation times. So in these plans, when we go door to door, we start from where the highest risk locations are and work outward from there. We work in a unified command with the fire department because they're going to have the most knowledge of what this fire is going to do. We are not experts at the sheriff's office in how the fires are going to act, so we work in conjunction with them, and we determine the course of the fire, the direction, and how we need to do those evacuations. So it allows us to put other areas into an advisory. So you're not quite at an order yet. We're not in immediate danger, but be prepared or pre-evacuate and go ahead and evacuate if it looks like it's coming that way. But we will start in the central location and work our way out. And typically the way that we work with evacuations is those evacuations are done, we over-evacuate. We would rather get people out and to safety quicker than is actually maybe the event might take 24 hours to get there, but we would rather have you out a day early so that we're not scrambling if that shifts, if those things change. So it's really important to be on these platforms and be registered with Code Red so that we can get as quick of information as possible to you, and just know that we are going to come out and we're going to do evacuations as well with our staff. When events first start, we only have what's on the street. So sometimes that's a small staff to do a lot of work, so it can take time for us to get to all those. So we're not going to be as efficient as 24 hours later where we have 50 deputies from other counties coming to help us do additional evacuations. So it is reliant on you to be aware of all these different avenues that you can get this information. And in Zonehaven, we're working on the build out portion of that will actually have evacuation points pre-designated depending on areas. So we already predetermine where we can send you and where you can stage when you get evacuated. And we have different options for resources and where those resources are going to be. Traffic control points so that we are controlling people coming into the event. So if we're doing evacuations in here, we're going to shut down both sides of North Rodeo Gulch and only allow emergency access in so that we can have a free flow of traffic moving out. Because the biggest point is to push the evacuees out and not cause a jam at one of the washouts where people are trying to get out and people are trying to get in. We're going to shut those down and make sure that everybody can efficiently get out. So being that I don't have a card held up, I guess I'm doing all right on time. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I do.
Yeah.
What happens if somebody decides to shelter in place and you've been told to evacuate a whole general area, but they've heard that they've done enough, defensible space?
So we will come and make a notification that it's a mandatory evacuation zone. If a person decides that they are going to remain at their residence and not evacuate, we're not going to drag somebody out of a residence. That's a choice that you're going to make. However, we won't probably have the resources or the ability to come back and do an evacuation later. So it has to be that choice of, are you going to evacuate now because we may not come back? And we do have forms that you will fill out that say that we notified you and you're choosing to stay. And that's part of our documentation, is we actually document that we notified people, whether or not they were coming or going, or whether they're staying or going, and how many people were remaining at that residence if they were to stay.
Please welcome Sean. He's going to talk to us about Know Your Zone, fire breaks, possibly prescribed burns, and really I wanted to know the difference just for myself because I just don't feel educated about this. Is what's the difference between a fire department and CAL FIRE? There you go.
Thank you, Susan. Again, Sean Murray, CAL FIRE. I'm the local battalion chief here for Santa Cruz County. So the area that I cover is everything from east of Highway 17 all the way to the county line, so all the way to Monterey County line, and the summit, the ridge line, to Santa Clara. So that's my area of responsibility. I was also asked to talk about Zonehaven a little bit, and I think it's good to kind of reiterate some of that. So I thank you, Sheriff, but I was talk about it a little more. So Zonehaven, it doesn't give notifications, so I think it's important to understand that. So if you're curious to what your zone is, you do need to, it's a web, it doesn't have an application, so it's a web-based. You have to go on your browser, Google Zonehaven, enter your address, and then you'll know your zone. So that's important because a lot of the press releases are just going to reference zones. And like the sheriff said, when that's highlighted, you'll know that there's an incident in your area that's affecting your zone. You can click on that zone and it will give additional information like direction of travel, where to evacuate to, what the hazard is. Code Red is a nationwide system, and it's also application based. So you can download that on your phone and you'll receive notifications nationwide for any type of hazards or emergencies. So that works similar to like reverse 911, because most of us don't have landlines anymore. So you would utilize Code Red. Another tool that's available to you is Alert Wildfire. So that's a system of cameras that have been placed throughout the state. They're placed at mountaintops, peaks. They've kind of taken the place of the old fire lookout. So they're constantly scanning the horizon. They also have infrared technology. If they recognize smoke or heat, they fixate on that, and it gives us a good idea, and you, because it could be accessed by the public, as to what the fire's doing if there's an incident in your area. Moving on to the difference between CAL FIRE and Central Fire. So everybody has several responsibilities for the land. So Central Fire is what we refer to as LRA, so Local Response Area. Bunch of acronyms, I know. And then there's SRA, which is the State Responsibility Area. So usually LRA is more city limits, etc. SRA is more when you get into the rolling hills and wildland areas. So say you had a fire here, North Rodeo Gulch. Central would send their own local response, and CAL FIRE would also send a response on the state side. So that is to, obviously we want to contain every start as quickly as possible. So we're sending huge responses to any reported vegetation fire, wildland fire. So a typical response would be 5 engines, 2 crews, 2 bulldozers, a copter, air attack, the air tankers. So we're very lucky here to have aircraft close proximity to us. So the aircraft comes out of Hollister, and then we have a helicopter that comes out of Alma off of Highway 17. So for this area being both Central Fire District and SRA, you get a dual response. So that's good. You get a lot of local resources very quickly into the area. However, during fire season, when resources get stretched thinner and we get sent throughout California, resources can be limited, and that's when it's important for you to do your defensible space and home hardening to protect your structure. Moving on to fuel breaks, fire breaks. So the difference between a fire break and there's also a shaded fuel break. So fire breaks are more what you'd see underneath like high tension power lines, where the vegetation is completely removed down to bare mineral soil. It's not very aesthetically pleasing to see. Usually if you're driving like in the Sierras or underneath PG&E lines, you'll see a mountainside and you'll see this big clearing underneath the power lines. What we're seeing more and more, and what we're working towards CAL FIRE also, is a shaded fuel break. So that's more of a thinning of the fuels, spacing in between trees. So now if you notice Highway 17, when you go over to the Santa Clara side of the highway, they did what's called the shaded fuel break on both sides of that highway. So it provides a place for the fire to slow down, to get a chance to attack the fire, and also safer egress for the public if they had to evacuate off of Highway 17. So we're going to see a lot more of those types of projects. Another one that's going to be starting is Summit Road. So from Mount Bocce, all of Summit Road to Highway 17 is going to have a shaded fuel break. So the thing too with the shaded fuel breaks is they have to be maintained, right? So every few years you either have to mechanically come back in, remove that vegetation, or sometimes you could use fire to also remove the vegetation, but they do have to be maintained, just like the defensible space around your home. With that, that's all I had for you today.
That's great.
So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sean. And here's some milk chocolate for you. Our next speaker is Tony Aiken. He's a wildland fire hazardous specialist. It's a mouthful.
We got rid of a lot of weeds.
And we miss Tony. He's back again, and we're so glad to have him. He's been so amazing. I think we all know Tony. So let's give Tony a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm recognizing a lot of faces here. As you know, I'm the guy that broke your heart and had to take away that tree that Grandma gave you next to the house. right?
The wisteria. Yeah.
The wisteria. Wisteria has to go. All those pretty plants, they all have to go. So this year, you guys, we're going to be obviously focusing again on Rodeo Gulch because you guys are doing a tremendous job. You guys have phenomenal defensible space going on. From when I showed up here 3 years ago, we didn't have the defensible space that we have now. Now I can literally go up the road and see it, and I see the road signs. I see the green signs everywhere. You guys, this is outstanding. This is great. Seeing that all happen. This year, though, we're on our 3rd year of drought, right? This little bit of rain is kind of the perfect storm. The fact that we were able to slow down the fire season. The fire season this year was already getting ready to start. We hadn't had any rain. We had a little bit. We had the rain in December, and then it just stopped. So we had no rain in January, had no rain in February, no rain in March. So those were record-setting, non-rainy months. In March, we had our very first wildfire warning alert, a red flag warning. We haven't had a red flag warning in March in the state of California ever. So that kind of was starting. My partner and I, Dan Frost, we kind of hibernate over the winter, and we talk about the vegetation and what's going to happen in the summer, what's going to happen, how are we going to teach these people to defend their homes. So we talk a lot over the winter, and what we've been discussing lately was how soon this fire season was going to start. What we were really happy about was there was no grass. So a lot of times the grass is a kindling. With these April showers, the only people that are going to be happy about it are the ranchers, because now they get a second growth of grass. So for all of you guys that have already taken out your grass, you're going to have to do it again. This stuff right now, in April, like I said, it was kind of the perfect storm. In April, we got a ton of rain. What's going to happen is that grass, now as you can see, everything's wet. The grass is green, and now we go into May and we get hot temperatures. As a matter of fact, I think tomorrow's supposed to be in the mid-70s. You can literally hear the grass growing. Literally hear it growing. And our vegetation right now, our 100-hour fuels and 1,000-hour fuels, this rain did not touch. Okay, all the brush that we have up here, didn't touch it. Didn't do a thing. So we are at historically low fuel moistures already, and it's only April. So we're at October kind of level of fuel moistures. So this rain kind of didn't do anything except for now we're in May, our grass is going to be 6 feet high. Where it kind of would have been better if we didn't have any rain, because then the grass would have stayed low. So for you guys, like I said, you guys have I've already done all your mowing and everything. I'll be back out in a few weeks to tell you to do it again. With this defensible space, though, as you're hearing everybody talk, what this does is this gives you guys a sense of safety for your house and the fact that your house won't burn. But the other side of it, too, is it gives the firefighters a safety area also. If your house is defendable, that allows the firefighters to come up and say, okay, we can defend this house, plus it's safe for me to be here. My oldest son now works for Calif Fire. So now I want him to be safe if he's doing structure protection here in Rodeo Gulch. So if he's doing structure protection here, I want him to go to a highly defendable house. We're going to talk about this later on as we go through the fire season and I go to your house. What I'm going to do for you guys is we're going to walk around just like we've done with these guys. We're going to walk around for an hour and a half, and I'm going to tell you to get rid of all your stuff. All the plants that you've been growing for 20, 25 years, right next to your house, all the beautiful plants. By the way, they were beautiful. I'm going to tell you, I want 5 feet of hardening. We're going to start getting really serious about this 5 feet of hardening, okay? What I mean by 5 foot of hardening is we want no vegetation. I don't want house plants. I don't want anything within there. If you have a plant within that 5 foot of hardening, it should be in a pot, okay? If it's in a pot, it allows the firefighters to move it away from your structure. As we work out, we're going to get into that 30 foot, and then we get out into the 100 foot. And then also for you guys to let you know, when we get out past that 30 foot range, if you have a couple acres, we're not going to have you make your house look like this, your property look like this. Once we get past that 30 feet, we start going into what Chief Murray was talking about is a shaded fuel break. So what we do is we separate the fuels. We've done a lot of that up on Rodeo Gulch. What's the one? Rodeo Gulch Lane, I think it is. They're sitting in a nasty saddle right at the top of the hill, kind of right below Sage up there. What they've done is they've done some really good shaded fuel breaking up there. So when that fire does come up that canyon, hopefully it won't get up into the trees, and we can keep it at a low intensity, and if there's nothing to burn on the ground, it'll basically go out. That's what we do with the shaded fuel breaks. We try to keep it out of the trees. And like I said, we're not going to have you guys completely clear cut everything. We don't want that. I love trees. I want my trees to stay here. I want to also protect them, and you too, so we separate the fuels. We get rid of all this brush and all this stuff. We've already talked about Muir and what a nightmare it is. These are what we call box canyons. The fire has a tendency to sit inside these canyons and get hotter and hotter and hotter. It has a tendency to burn inside these canyons. For us, it's really hard to get in there. So what we're going to have is we have these 1 hour fuels leading up to the 100 hour and 1,000 hour fuels. Those 100 hour and 1,000 hour fuels are going to burn as if it were grass this year, unfortunately. So we really need to pay attention to what we have growing around our homes, whether it be fire-resistant vegetation. Also, the main thing we're also trying to protect is ember storm. The embers is what burns the houses down. It's not the actual fire front itself. It's the ember storm that we're really trying to protect from. There's some great videos out there on YouTube about ember storms coming in and what's going to burn. The siding of your house gets up in the vents, literally will burn the redwood stuff that you have around your houses to make it look pretty. Any kind of little vegetation, even things that you didn't think were going to burn, will burn. All the way down to the succulents. I took a cruise up to the CCU thing, and I looked, and it burned across Highway 1 over there by Waddell, and it literally burnt the succulents on the other side of the highway, on the ocean side. And I was just, man, that's got to be some heat. So we don't want that to happen here, obviously. So we need to be prepared. If we can have these defendable homes, it allows the firefighters to say, okay, that's a defendable home, it'll defend itself, I need to go fight fire. If we're not fighting the fire, we're protecting homes or either evacuating people out. And a lot of times when that fire initially hits, we don't have enough fire engines to cover every house up there. So we kind of rely on the defensibility of your home, and it allows us to go, okay, we know that those houses are defendable up there. As long as there's nobody up there to have to worry about, I can go fight fire. That's how it works. But we have to defend the houses first. Sometimes we can be on a fire for hours and not even touch the fire because we're so busy jumping out in front of it, trying to deal with the structures and stuff. So when we come around this year, like I said, we're really going to be pushing on that home hardening, that 5 feet this year. I've kind of given you guys a break the last couple of years. Kind of giving you a break, saying, I'm sorry about the tears. Maybe this year you won't get a fire and we can keep that wisteria all over your house. Probably not. Now that you guys have seen me now for 3 years, now's the time to really get it done. And we're going to work on it. And that's what we're here for. We're not going to write you up. We're not going to cite you or anything else. We're here to help you protect it. So we're going to teach you how to do it. The other thing, too, is when we give you that LE 100, later on this year, there's an AB bill being passed that if it shows that you're trying to defend your home, insurance companies cannot cancel you or they cannot reinstate you. By law, they're going to have to keep you. So they can't drop you if it shows that you are trying to make your house defendable. Luckily for us in this area, our fire hazard severity zone isn't nearly as high as it is up the hill. We have this ocean breeze, so we have this kind of good stuff here. So if there's any questions, I'm not going to answer them now. I have 1 minute. So, and I can't answer a question in 1 minute. It's just the way it is. Me and Marco, it is what it is. Yeah. What's a 100-hour fuel? It goes with thickness of your brush, trees. Let's say the 100-hour fuels, it goes by thickness. Okay, grass is what we consider 1 hour fuel. So it could be it could be brown and get a rain on top of it, but an hour later, if you get a little wind, it can actually burn. So the 10-hour fuels, 100-hour fuels, 1,000-hour fuels, that's how we go by diameter of the trunk or whatever. Okay, so That's what we mean by those, the 100-hour fuels. In other words, it hasn't really been affected by 100 hours of rain or 100 hours like that. Does that make sense? I'm done. So, in the middle of March is when we'll be back in force, or middle of May. The inspectors will be back. Give us a call down over at Soquel in Aptos. Give us a call, and we will come out and we will walk through your property with you and teach you how to defend it. Okay? And we'll be seeing you.
And that's why Central Fire is so amazing, because they will actually come out and spend an hour and a half and point to your wisteria that was completely surrounding my house. I clipped it by hand, and it literally made me cry. I spent 30 years growing it, but I did it. I did everything he said to do, and I've got defensible space around my house. You all, I don't know if I mentioned this on the forum, we get 2% off on our insurance, 2% off on your homeowner's insurance by being Firewise. We are all Firewise. Everybody in our community here is Firewise, and if you can show them that you're doing things around your house, you've cleared it, take pictures before and after and say, look what I've done. I did 5 feet, I did 30 feet. Keep those records, send them to me. As a matter of fact, at the end of this year, before our Firewise certification, or keep calling it that, recognition, I need to tell them how much we spent this year. So I'm going to ask you that, and I need you to tell me, because if you don't tell me, and I'm going to say, oh, we spent $50, we may lose our recognition. That's 2% of our insurance. So it's really something. And Tony and Marco and all of Central Fire is phenomenal. I don't think other fire departments do that. Maybe they do, but I really love Central. Treat them well when they come out to see you, and let them teach you what they're doing. Our next speaker is Angie Richmond, and she's from the RCD. She's going to talk about the chipping program, which kind of ties into what Tony just talked about.
Hi, everyone. So my name's Angie Richmond, and I work for the Santa Cruz Resource Conservation District. So if you haven't heard of it before, the Resource Conservation District, also known as the RCD, is a small non-regulatory public agency, and they're all throughout the state of California. They originated in the 1940s during the Dust Bowl era. And one of the most important programs we have for residents in Santa Cruz that live in the wildland-urban interface is our no-cost chipping program. So this program is available to all residents that live in the WUI, except for Bonnie Doon, because you have your own chipping program, and then also there's a part of South Skyline area that is excluded because they also have their own chipping program. And we have 2 seasons of chipping every year. So one is in spring and one is in fall. The spring one that is happening now opened April 1st, and it does close April 30th. So the clock is ticking. If you want to register for it, you should do that soon. And then the fall one is the reimbursement-based program that I'm not going to talk as much about. But in that one, you need to get eight homeowners or landowners together, and you can get up to $250 reimbursement for chipping. So what the chipping program is, in essence, is you do your defensible space clearing on your home. You can do it yourself, or you can hire someone to help you, or get your neighbor to help you, whatever. And then you sign up for the chipping program, and we send out a licensed contractor to go to your home, and they chip all that material on site. So our registration, everything is online. So rcdsantacruz.org/chipping. I have a bunch of information back there at my table. We do ask you to give us some photos of the work you've done and talk about the amount of hours or time you've spent clearing your land. This program is funded by a few different grant sources. So one is CAL FIRE, and another one is the Federal Fire Safe Council, and I think the U.S. Forest Service is the last funding source. And it's all for people to do defensible space on your home. So the clearing is supposed to be just around the 100 feet of your home. So if you have, an acreage, please don't use this program for clearing your whole acreage. We do have some other programs for that. There are a few parameters for the amount of piles you can have. You can only have up to 3 piles on your property, and they have to be within like 5 feet of a road or a driveway, somewhere where our contractors can easily grab it and go. And they're only allowed to be a certain size, and that's about it for the piles. And then we also offer chipping for people who live on private roads. That gets a little more tricky. It's per linear foot. So if you do live on a private road and you want to participate in the program, you can send me an email. I have some cards back there,
or it's arichman, ARICHMAN, at rcdsantacruz.org. And we can get you some clearing for your private road. I'm not sure if I said it, but all the information is on our website. So when you do register, you get an auto-generated email, and you need to find that email and follow a link in it to complete your registration. So sometimes your auto-generated emails will go to your spam or junk folder. So if you don't see that email, check those folders or email us if you can't find it. And make sure you finish that registration process, because you're not on the list for the contractors until you do. And once again, this spring session closes April 30th. But this program, I think, has been running for about 15 years or something. It will continue to run every spring and fall, and there's tons of information on our site. And I'm in the back if you have any more questions about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Angie. The RCD program is amazing. I've used it for the past 3 years. I got free chipping. Virtually all the chipping on my property, I have 2.5 acres, has been done for free. I create my piles, talk to my neighbors, move some stuff over to their property if I need to, but I get everything done every year. They come out, they do it for free for individuals. I gathered 8 households here on North Rodeo Gulch. Some people on Muir and different families just got together, and they came out and did our piles. They're 4 feet by 4 feet by 8 feet, with the big end of the branch facing towards the driveway. So there's some parameters, but it's free, and it pretty much covers most of the stuff that I do every year. So all my clearing gets done for free. The other thing that's really cool about that is as they come up and clear, and we have like huertas come out and chip all of our stuff. Once we do one household, I notice that people all the way down the street, all the way down North Rodeo Gulch start chipping also. So it's a contagious thing. It's really nice to see that going. And that leads me to Rod Caborn, who's next. He's going to talk about, he's Amigo Bronco Road Association, and they do amazing work up there. I've been invited to their road association. They've got a great group of people, and he's going to talk about a program that they have.
Thank you, Susan. Yes, yeah, Rod, your neighbor up at Amigo Road, and we have Bronco and a couple of other streets that are off of there, but it's the Amigo Road Association. And it's a private road, and therefore we had a collective need to come together and deal with that. And it may well be that some of you are in areas where you're not in private roads. In fact, could we have a show of hands of those of you who are in some kind of informal association or group or anything? Oh, okay, well, it turns out it's most of you. But obviously now that Susan has done this, we actually have 18 little micro communities where you could actually do it specific to this. But we've been running the association for decades now, and the one thing that I'd like to stress more than anything is it's fun. I know it sounds like I'm pitching here, but it truly, because it's every year we meet up and meet with all of our neighbors, and we would not do that if it weren't for the road. Obviously there's work to be done, but we have to come together because we have to deal with our private road and mitigation and repairs and so forth. So that's how that works. But as Susan and others have been bringing our attention more and more to fire mitigation, it's a really effective and compelling way for us to transition to do that as well. And very importantly, it doesn't take much more than just sending an email out collectively to everybody and just setting a date. So if you're not in a group already and you're here, by definition, you're interested in this, and it doesn't take any kind of skill beyond sending out a group email. And once you have that date, people will come. And of course, now we had the collective urgency around the road, but now we all understand that we have a collective urgency around fire protection. And so people will come. And to Susan's point, she invited me because we have this association in place, and we've done work parties. And they've been great fun. We've set them up such that volunteers spend 2 or 3 hours together, and then we have beer and pizza or wine and hors d'oeuvres afterwards. And it's just a great way to get to know your neighbors. So we've done those very road specific, but now we realize that we can do more. And we're going to be setting up a work party that is fire specific completely. And Tony, of course, is going to be visiting again in mid-May, and we're looking forward very much to that. At which point, shortly thereafter, we're going to set up a participation. So we're going to invite all of our residents to either participate in one of two ways. The first is to volunteer. If you can work with us and help out for 3 hours or more, you're in. And if you're not able to do that for whatever reason, then we'd ask you to pay. So there's, again, two ways of participating, and then we'll have a certain number. By the time everyone's responded, we'll have a certain number. We have 30 properties up there on the Amigo Association. Let's say, just for an example, we've got 20 people in. So that means we have 20 households, and we're going to just share the day for those 20 households. We're going to divvy up time. We're going to use Angie if we can figure that out with the resource center. We'll go ahead and rent a chipper, or we'll get the chipping services, or even two if that's what it requires. And we're going to designate a certain amount of minutes to each house personally so that everybody is directly benefiting as residents, and then collectively we'll do some work as well on the road, on the communal areas. So by doing this, our hope is, and we'll report back to Susan and let you know how this all works so you can replicate it if it turns out to be a really good plan, so that it's going to be purely for chipping, dragging brush to locations where it can be chipped, weed whacking, and some minor chainsaw work from the ground up, so the first 8-10 feet. And so that's what our volunteers are going to be doing. And so the homeowner will have established what he or she needs to do, and then we will facilitate that, either through the volunteers or those homeowners who don't volunteer, that's to say don't volunteer to work, will just help pay for the whole thing. So we are very confident that people will come together, as you guys have come together here today, as community members, as homeowners, as friends, and get this work done, and then we're all making this thing doable. We pick away at it as a community and as a neighborhood, as opposed to being overwhelmed by this giant problem that's facing all of us where we don't even know where to start. So that is our plan. Again, I can't stress enough how positive it is to just send out emails and get everybody involved. And Susan has done so much of the legwork on this. So again, thank you, Susan, for all you've done. Cheers.
Thank you, Rod. I think it's great. Hidden Valley and Amigo both have amazing road associations where they get a lot of work done, and I'm hoping to do that on my road, but I wanted them to come share their experiences with all of you, because it's going to take the groups of people getting together, like you said, paying for it, or bring your little chainsaw with you. Okay, so we've got Crystal English here, and she's going to be talking about the Santa Cruz equine evacuation process. And as you can see, a lot of people here have horses and cows, so this is really valuable and important information.
Thank you, Susan. Hi, everybody. My name is Crystal English Sands, and I am the Public Information Officer for the Santa Cruz County Equine Evacuation Unit. We are a 70-plus volunteer-based organization that is responsible for evacuating all large livestock, poultry, and exotic species here in Santa Cruz County. Can I get a show of hands of folks who have horses, goats, sheep, pigs, poultry? I'll keep it quick. You guys can find me afterwards. So anyhow, Santa Cruz County Equine Evacuation Unit is responsible for evacuating all animals within the county in a fire event, as well as any other disasters such as debris flow. If you have large animals, we ask that you have a plan in place. We have a service and a committee that will come out and help you set up a plan for your animals in your area. We can help, if you don't have trailers, figure out how you're going to get the animals off of your property and down the road. So we ask everyone with animals have an evacuation plan. This goes for anything from lizards. We did a lot of lizard rescue during the CZU fire. Lizards and chickens, let me tell you. So if you, as soon as you get that evacuation warning, we ask that you have a plan in place to go ahead and get your animals off of property and out of harm's way. We do have 2 separate evacuation centers in Santa Cruz County. One is Graham Hill Showgrounds out on Graham Hill Road. The other is the Santa Cruz County Fairgrounds. And we will let you know which center we will be opening when a fire starts. We offer a service for anyone who is interested in signing up with us ahead of time. As we really encourage anyone who has animals and does not have trailer space to move them themselves, or during CZU, what we found is during the pandemic, a lot of people got chickens, and nobody thinks about how to move their 25 new chickens when there's a fire. And so it's little things like going through and thinking about, do you have cages for your animals? Are they going in the back of your Subaru? Are they going on the back of your Vespa? How are you getting your animals out? We had some crazy stuff go down during CZU. So the other thing is if you are planning to shelter in place, we are asking everyone to get their animals out ahead of time. It is going to make fire's job more difficult, and it is putting us at risk to go in once a fire has moved through your property. During CSU, we had a lot of people who didn't think the fire was going to reach their property, and we were going in a week plus afterwards. And unfortunately, a few of those people, we received a call, a dog breeder who had multiple dogs inside of her house and multiple pigs on site. And when we showed up to the property, we had to let her know that her house was no longer standing. So if you're deciding to stay behind, that's your choice. Get the animals out. It's only going to become an issue for you, your water supply down the road. If you have any questions, come find me afterwards. I'll be around. And if you have animals, please come and sign up with me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is great. I have chickens, and I didn't realize I just talked to her, Amy, and she was talking about chickens, and I said, well, what about chickens? I have 5 chickens. And she says, how are you going to evacuate your chickens? And I said, I'm afraid of my chickens. I never touch them. The idea of me going and catching them and then walking up my hill and then putting them in a vehicle, my car, and I just realized I am totally not prepared at all for that. I never even thought of my dogs. Of course, I've got them completely figured out, but not my chickens. So this was a wake-up call. But I eat the eggs. Yeah, I'm a vegan that eats the eggs. Our next speaker is Phil Irwin. He's from the California Fair Plan. He's come from Sacramento to be here to share with us his wisdom about fire insurance, and I think we're all worried about that. We're all worried that we can lose our fire insurance, and he's here to answer all of those questions. So thank you so much, Phil.
Well, thank you for having me here. First off, just so you did notice these certificates that you have as a member of Firewise community, for the Fair Plan, it is a 10% discount, and then it is actually the only discount available on the Fair Plan. So again, it's a very positive thing because it shows that you're very proactive in your planning and prevention by being a Firewise community member. So my role is a public relations representative. I spend a lot of time with throughout the state with the fire safe councils, various fire safe councils, and Firewise communities and fire alliances. And my hat's off to all of you, because the truth is once these major fire events begin, there's not a whole lot you can control, and you're just thinking to yourself what you would have done differently, your go bags and all these other measures and things that everybody's talking about. And even just from an evacuation standpoint, evacuations, as we've seen, can last several weeks. So it's a lot more to think about and to plan for than you ever imagined. So again, this is what everyone's here to do today, and thinking ahead, and my hat's off to you for doing that. If you haven't heard of the Fair Plan, that's probably a positive thing for you. But if you have, really, we came into play a lot more. We were established in 1968, right after there was a series of fires and actually some civil unrest, the Watts riots. And that's where the Fair Plan was initiated, to provide coverage for homes that their traditional insurance carriers weren't comfortable writing. And that's kind of where our role has evolved in the state. So we're referred to as the insurer of last resort. We don't our intent isn't to grow. Our intent, success for us is when we're not needed in a market anymore. So our goal is we step in as a stopgap to fill the need when the insurance companies are not open to writing in certain areas, and hopefully we want to see the markets be restored where through whatever efforts are made, they can look at a marketplace or an individual risk and say we're willing to write that, and then we would no longer be needed. So ultimately that's what success looks like to us. But the reality is probably since the campfire, which is just a little over 3 years ago, that was really the catalyst for the majority of the insurance carriers in the state to really look at all the homes in the WUI and really just start saying no to them. And that's really what we've seen by and large. It's happened over a series of events. And their goal is to really see things to where the companies will look at the homes individually rather than just carving out complete zip codes and saying no to them. The Fair Plan policies work a little bit differently than your traditional insurance policy, where our focus, the perils that we cover, are fire, smoke damage, wind damage, and lightning. And explosions. So really those are the major components we cover. And then there's another policy called the difference in conditions policy. It's also been referred to as a wrap or companion policy that most of the carriers provide. And that policy together, that policy would cover your liability coverage, your water damage. So the two policies together would have the same components that your traditional HO3 or homeowners policy would have. The benefit to having the difference in conditions policy available from your primary carriers is that way you would still get a discount for having your umbrella and your auto insurance or other vehicles or other components you would still get the multi-policy discount. So it's really advantageous to have that separate. And there's lots of those available on the marketplace today. There's really not a case where you would not be able to find a competitive difference in conditions policy. So you really need the two policies together. I would encourage you to educate yourself as much as you can because you want to shop. Just because your insurance agent you're with today says your policy is being non-renewed doesn't mean there's nothing else available for you. You want to look beyond. So we're the insurer of last resort for you, not your insurance agent. So if your insurance agent ran out of options, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's nothing else available. So we encourage you to shop. If you do end up on the Fair Plan, it's not permanent. And if something becomes available, you can get off of it with no penalty or surcharges. That's our goal for you is to be placed with a traditional carrier. And same thing with your renewal. So if you find yourself coming up on your second term with the Fair Plan, get ahead of it and shop. And shop by and large. Don't just shop with one individual. And even if you feel like you get a good quote, or you want to just continue to look until you really feel good making that final decision. It's really important for you to feel comfortable. Understand each component of coverage. Our policies are customizable. It's not packaged together where you basically want to make sure that your home is insured to value. So if something does happen, the check is going to be written for the right amount of money to rebuild your home, like, kind, and quality as it is today. Same with making sure your contents are covered. If maybe you've made some upgrades to your home, you want to make sure that all that is factored into the replacement value of your home today. And that also goes for your belongings as well. So again, we're here for you. We're here as long as you're needed, as long as we're needed. But again, our goal ultimately is to get to the point where, by and large, the insurance companies are going to return back to the marketplace. I do have a couple minutes for questions. If anybody had any questions specifically, or unfortunately, right now the numbers are still growing. So the wildland-urban interface makes up about a third of the state. And beyond that, the way the insurance companies are looking at it today, they're expanding further. So the WUI is really growing because they're saying we're not going to grow. We're not going to write within 5 miles of the WUI or 2 miles within the WUI. So that is kind of what's happening now. And so basically we're growing, and it's important for us to be actuarially sound. So again, as our exposure grows, so does our need to have reserves in the case of catastrophic events. So in those cases, our rates are more expensive because 100% of what we write is in risky areas. We can't balance our risk to where most insurance companies have low risk areas, a balance of low risk areas and some high risk areas. We're 100% in low risk or in high risk areas. So again, our premiums are typically more expensive than your traditional carriers?
He's one of my students, and he has a project, and his project is really, really cool. He's taken his project on, just for all of you to know, for North Rodeo Gulch. I was talking to him about me doing this work up here, and he's talking about things, and he's this computer guy and does all this computer stuff, and I'm just like the opposite. I have no idea what he's talking about. And he came to me and said, Susan, guess what? I've got this really cool thing. I think this will work for your area. And he's here today to share it with you, because he's going to develop this as his project. I'm a college advisor, and part of what I do is I help students do projects that are really exciting to them. He loves this. He woke up in the middle of the night and said, Susan, I'm so excited. You're not going to believe it. He goes, I can't even tell you how excited I am, right? He says, I'm unbelievably excited. You're not going to believe what happened. And I have no idea what he was just talking about, but it was just like, yes, I'm so glad you're excited. But he's got this great project that we're hoping, if it works, we can model around the world, basically, for other people who experience catastrophic disasters, where we have no communication. I'm going to let him say everything, so let's let him talk. Thank you, Sean, for being here.
Hello, my name is Sean. I'm sure you have several questions right now. First being, what the heck is he holding? Second, well, what exactly am I going to be talking about? So, essentially what I'm just going to be talking about is the future of fire safety as, well, the way I think I could see it. And it's using technology. So, I mean, looking at North Rodeo Gulch, I mean, you guys are loaded when it comes to fire safety. You got micro communities. You have, well, this entire presentation basically with ARES. I don't need that. CERT, bunch of other things. You have Calif Fire. You have Central Fire. I mean, you guys are probably the prime example of fire safety everywhere in the United States. So really proud of that for you guys. And I'm thinking, how can we take this a step further, right? So as a fail-safe, if everything went wrong, and we can model this across the United States, like with areas that don't have this type of infrastructure, right? Because we have single-lane roads, we basically have no Wi-Fi signal out anywhere, or data signal. So how else could we expand on this? And I'm thinking about using the idea of ham radios, as well as the idea that maybe, just maybe, we could enlist professionals' help as well when it comes to ham radios. So using ham radios is much faster than going around through EMS. I mean, it's a given. EMS, you have to go through a lot of red tape to even get a response. And that's not a fault of the EMS. They have rules and regulations, of which I admire, and there's reasons for them. But when it comes to fast responses, ham radio is probably one of the best ways out there. You have instant communication, all that jazz. So ham radio is probably the best fail-safe we have when it comes to EMS if they can't respond. So what I have here is my personal project, something I'm really proud of, and it is my cyber deck. That is the fancy name. I like to call it the back computer, but that's trademarked, so I can't use that. So it's pretty much just an entirely offline computer. And this allows you to use it where you normally couldn't use your phone, or like in the middle of the desert, for example. Not that you'd use it in the desert, but yeah. So it comes I'm planning on it coming preloaded with local maps of your area, right? So, for example, it would be North Rodeo Gulch right here. So you'd have GPS because, well, you know, satellites, it's right above you. You don't need Wi-Fi for that. So you'd have GPS. You would have medical information, basic medical information, fire prevention, you know, all your standard medical stuff. And then on top of that, Susan and I were thinking using the telephone tree system. So, as you all know, you have your information, address, all that in a system where you can be held accountable or have someone hold account for you as for if a fire happens. That could be preloaded on this as well. This is entirely up to you as to what you want on this thing. So what I'm thinking about this is that whoever has this, whether it be you guys, whether it's going to be the ham operators, or whether it's going to be the professionals, the hand-picked professionals that we have giving advice to these people, well, I mean, information is power. You can make educated decisions depending on, well, whatever you give them, basically. And I'm already imagining all the Cal Fire, all the Central Fire raising their metaphorical pitchforks. And, you know, because there's standard protocol for everything. And the thing is, there is no replacement for 911. There's no replacement for CERTs. And this doesn't supersede that. This is an expansion on what we believe is something that we can use as a failsafe, and you can never have too many failsafes. So in dire situations, we have something that people can rely on in rural America, where basically everything, you're not connected to anything. So with that, I guess thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sean. So part of Sean's idea is to take his cyber deck, download all the information that we have, like for instance our maps and everything. So when we lose power and we lose communication, and let's say it's catastrophic, like there's a major something that happens, fire, whatever, and we can't get a hold of anybody and we have no resources, this cyber deck will be loaded with all the information that he thinks that we think he needs. So he wants to work with firefighters, retired firefighters, who can help us load information on here that's valuable, so that people, the residents, can actually take this and open it up without power and just get this information, say, okay, here's what we need to do, here's what we need to do, and we need to contact these people. We can talk to our hams, and our hams can talk to people in Utah who's not dealing with a catastrophic disaster and offer some suggestions. We're not we're in the infancy stage of this, but he brought this today just to show what he's been working on. So he's already developed the programs on here, and we're going to start tweaking it. So this is just going to be an experiment, and I'm going to be working with Central, and I'm going to be working with Cal Fire and everybody to make sure that we're not stepping on any toes. But the cool thing for us on North Rodeo Gulch is that Sean's building this for us. So it's going to be our own personal trial and error just to figure out how to make this work, and we'll test it and see if it works. But I just love the fact that these kids come up with these great ideas and they just are willing to do things, and he's going to spend a couple years doing this. Hopefully it'll get him into a great college and good scholarship money, and the rest of us get to benefit. Okay, so for today, I'm hoping that your takeaway is going to be getting your address signs. This is one of my big deals. I want to get this taken care of this year. So I'm very concerned about this. Also, meet with Keith and Eric and get your MERS radios, because without MERS radios, we're not communicating. So we really want to get that taken care of. The other thing I want you to think about is looking at your micro-community, knowing your micro-community, going to the website and the forum, checking it, being aware of what's going on, and fill out your phone tree, because from the phone tree I'm going to take that information and put it on these maps. I'm not going to go to the surveys that you filled out. It just takes too much time. I've put hundreds of hours into this. I really want you all to go to the forum. I will keep putting information out there for you through the forum. So I'm going to give you information from from Central Fire, from all the different resources I have that I think you'll be interested in. I'll be giving you tips on how to save money. But this year, these are the goals. We want address signs. We want you all to get MERS radios. I want you to fill in the phone tree. Sign up for Code Red. That's reverse 911. If we have power, that's the best way for you to get information quickly, and it's effective. It's through the whole county, and that's really what we're looking for. Tony talked about clearing your properties. We need to start right now. That's why I picked this day for our meeting, our event, because I want you all to go out and start pulling out your chainsaws and clearing your properties, getting your neighbors together, working together to create group projects to do clearing. Work with Central because they will help you figure out what needs to be done. And the RCD does free chipping, so there's no excuse to not doing this. We've got go bags here. That's something that you all probably did last year. If you came to the meeting last year and you probably have go bags, you need to update it. You've got to make sure your food is current and it's not, expired. You want to make sure your water's fresh, and you want to add the new medical things that I didn't put in last year because that's going to be really helpful. Don't forget that we are recognized as a Firewise community, so you've got 2% off. You can get that certificate in the forum. Don't email me. It's in the forum and it's up there, so all you have to do is download that and send it off to your insurance company, and you should be able to get a discount with that. 2% for regular insurance, 10% off for the California Fair Plan. We've got a bunch of vendors, which I think you've all had a chance to look at. Go ahead and get their information. And we will be doing a demo in a few minutes, and the demo will consist of safe use of chainsaws. So I'm going to be demonstrating how to use this, which is the battery-operated chainsaw. It's only like $200, and I can keep it in my car, have it with me everywhere I go. And I can also do all the limbing of trees and things all by myself because it's so light. I don't need to pull any crazy cords. But we do have Frank Locatelli, the owner of this property, will be showing you how to use a real chainsaw, the kind that you have to pull with a cord, and that's really powerful. And he's going to show you how to cut those down, and he'll be meeting us over there. Carlin's is also going to be doing a fire extinguisher demonstration, and they've so nicely come out and set this all up. So there's going to be a fire, and if you've never used a fire extinguisher before, this is a really great opportunity for you to try that and see what it feels like. It's a really good skill to have. And they are also filling fire extinguishers. So if you have fire extinguishers and you don't refill them every year, they lose charge, and that's something you want to put on your calendar to do every year. So every year I'm hoping that they will come back to our events and they will fill your fire extinguishers. So if you brought them, make sure you give them to them so they can fill them while you're here.
So should I use this kind, so just like what I have in my kitchen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just before you get closer, look where the flame's going. Over one. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, sometimes they're a bit hard. Don't miss anything. That's inevitable, isn't it?
Okay. And now I just start just pressure on the base. So the fire's almost out, right?
Sorry. Squeeze the handle.
Oh, sorry.
Wow.
That's sweet.
Hopefully.
I'd like to show how you can use a chainsaw and be not a big man like Frank. And I don't like those kinds of chainsaws because the rope that he has to pull makes it really hard to get it started. He made it look really easy. I've never started a chainsaw with that. I've always just walked away and said, "Ah, forget it." So one thing that we need to wear is goggles. So protective glasses, and here's my goggles. And the other thing I like to do is I like to wear leather gloves, although it doesn't really protect you because it's just leather. But I like to wear my gloves. I usually don't dress like this, but this is part of my event. And I bought the Makita. This is a 10-inch Makita. It's battery operated. It's brand new. It's got a little battery. It's 7 pounds. Without the battery, with the battery, it's 9 pounds. It's really powerful, and it's really nice because you just push a button. So I just push the little button. It turns green, and I just push this red thing, and I pull the trigger. And it cuts, and it works really well. Let me show you how it works. So like this, it's got a little handle here. It's so easy that I can limb up limb the trees up in my house and be able to get all kinds of things out of the way. So limbing up is really easy. The chainsaw is not a problem. So I love this. And I've got
It's a tale of petty theft. Well, I started out with nothing and I still got most of it left. Yeah, well, I had a couple paychecks, too few to